Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto refuses to save Sasuke. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Griffindork93 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Thunder rumbled. Lightning flashed. The wind blew at insane speeds. The earth shook with tremors. It was not a storm. It wasn't a freakish once-in-a-lifetime occurrence of weird weather. It wasn't the apocalypse. It was a battle to save the world, or what was left of it. Three figures watched a battle that would determine the fate of the world from a distance. Even over the deafening noise they could hear Naruto's pleas. Haven't you destroyed enough, Sasuke? Haven't you gotten your revenge? Konoha's gone. You razed it to the ground. What more do you want? The last Uchiha laughed cruelly. What more do I want? I want what happened to my clan, to me and Itachi, to never happen again. And if I have to destroy the world and rebuild it to do so, then so be it. Naruto's face hardened and his heart clenched painfully. Why couldn't Sasuke see beyond his hatred? Why did he still need revenge for an event that happened over a decade ago? Why couldn't he see that constantly chasing after revenge would only continue to hurt him? If Sasuke had just left it alone, never vowed to kill his brother, Konoha would still exist and Kakashi would still be alive. He could have had a family in them. Him, Kakashi, and Sakura. Sakura took a step closer to her blonde teammate. This battle was reaching its crescendo. She could see it in their posture and feel it, the intense buildup of chakra. Lightning chirped in Sasuke's palm. Naruto's Rasengan screeched as it whirled. Sakura had a brief flashback to that day on the roof when she had foolishly run between her two teammates to prevent them from killing each other, only to be stopped by Kakashi-sensei throwing them to the ground. Kakashi wasn't here this time. And she wasn't going to get between them. That didn't stop her from crying again. Even after all these years, it wasn't easy to let go of the bond she had made on Team 7. She watched through watery eyes as black and orange clashed and the force of the jutsus colliding flung them apart. Hating herself for agreeing to Naruto's plan, Sakura raced in Sasuke's direction. Sakura had memorized the anatomy of the human body, everything from cells to chakra coils, and she could hit the chakra point of the heart with the accuracy of a Hyuga. Sasuke doubled over, coughing blood. Naruto staggered over, collapsing next to him. Sakura tried. Stars, she tried, but not even with the Kyuubi's help could Naruto survive a hole in the chest. The Chidori had blown right through him, incinerating everything. Sakura could not heal what did not exist. Sakura's attention returned to Sasuke as he coughed once more. She stared in awe at his receding curse seal. As the curse seal disappeared, his expression changed. He was the old Sasuke again, but it was too late. As he choked out a broken sorry, they knew they hadn't killed the man who had a hand in enslaving the world. They had killed a comrade, a friend. Don't worry about it, team. I told you, the next time we fought, we would both die. I promised to shoulder your hatred and die with you. And I never break a promise. Oh, why? You told me a first-class ninja can read his opponent's heart just by trading blows with him once. I've seen inside your heart. You're not evil or even corrupted. You were manipulated. You were a victim and no one ever saw that you were healed. We're friends. Family. Tears slipped silently down Sakura's cheeks. The three observers shunshined to Team 7's side, noting the three's clasped hands. Neither Naruto nor Sakura would leave Sasuke alone to die. Kakashi had taught them better than that. They did not leave comrades behind. That was not their way. I think we should give it a try. Three heads whipped to gaze at Shikamaru, who shrugged. It was a jutsu Gaara had found in the Kazakija's archives. It was an experimental jutsu, untested, extremely dangerous, and designed accidentally by a man trying to improve upon Shukaku's seal. Instead, he had created an extremely complex time travel jutsu. So complex that it was impossible to use without risking the lives of the casters. Shikamaru had found several flaws the first time he read the scroll. To start, it was a 5-element seal, meaning it needed a different person to represent each seal. Second, it needed more chakra than one person had to activate. Third, it needed a level of chakra control that rivaled Tsunade. Essentially, the jutsu needed 6 people to cast just to send one person into the past. And the more they tried to send through time, the more chakra that was needed. Unfortunately, they did not have 6 people. Also, both Naruto and Temari had wind-natured chakra. That wouldn't have been a problem if Naruto had the control necessary. If he did, he would have been able to power the jutsu and they would only need to find a survivor with fire-natured chakra. The Kyuubi was fire-natured, but a clone would not work. Seals required blood, which shadow clones did not have. But we have nobody for fire. It was ironic that Shikamaru was suggesting it because he had spent the last 5 years since Gaara had found it warning them that it was too risky and that they should just destroy it. What do we have left to lose? What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work and we have to rebuild the world. It kills us. Whatever the outcome, it's better that we can say we tried to save the world. Sakura and Naruto immediately gave their agreement. Not even in the death of Kakashi or Konoha or the world or Sasuke himself would they leave a teammate behind. They could save Sasuke. Reluctantly the others did too. Gaara worked quickly to assemble the pieces of the seal. He distributed 4 smaller scrolls to Temari, Shikamaru, Sakura and Naruto and kept the 5th for himself. They were representing wind, lightning, water, fire and earth respectively. He only hoped, as he and Sakura raised Naruto in order to slide the central scroll beneath him, that he could use the Kyuubi's chakra to satisfy the element part of the seal and to power it. Let me. Sasuke. Sakura worried her lip. I still have some chakra. Temari's eyes softened slightly. She had never cared for the Uchiha, aside from the fact that Naruto kept chasing after him. She never imagined their bonds would be this strong. Shikamaru's eyes, on the other hand, narrowed. It certainly was the ideal solution. There would be no less chances for mistakes if Sasuke activated the fire scroll. You won't be coming with us, Uchiha. Sasuke rolled his eyes. He may not have the Nara's IQ of over 200, but he wasn't stupid. Even if he had enough chakra to survive, he knew the only ones that trusted him were Naruto and Sakura. The other 3 would never agree to let him join them. His team was ready to forgive and forget, but Shikamaru at least would never forget that he was responsible for his village's destruction. Team. Thank you, Sasuke. This time I'll save you. Believe it. Dope. Whatever, Naruto. Just don't screw up this time. Don't start. I can kill as easily as I heal. Don't think I won't beat the crap out of you. I don't care if you're the Hokage or your past self didn't do it. The 3 of them shared a smile. They all understood it to say we'll meet again, one way or another. Gaara yelled for them to begin. 5 colors of chakra arced into the sky, meeting at the center and forming a cage around them. The Kyuubi's chakra then washed over them, saturating the air. In no time at all they had vanished in an orange light, leaving behind the last Uchiha, whose body had given out power part of the jutsu. Sasuke died with the smallest of smiles present on his face, placing his faith in Naruto and Sakura to change the future. Sakura groaned as she came to, only vaguely recognizing someone muttering finally. She was more concerned with the pain. It was all-encompassing. As a medical ninja, she knew that her every cell shouldn't feel like it had been set on fire. Maybe that was an exaggeration. It actually felt very similar to the time Tsunade had decided to play dodgeball with boulders as tall as her, exclaiming they should be easy to avoid because how could Sakura miss them coming. Needless to say, that was one of the most painful days of her life and it was just shunted into second place. About time, Sakura-chan. It wasn't the deep voice she was used to, but Sakura would never forget that voice. Hokage-sama. The pincat jerked upright, regretting it as her smaller body screamed at her and promptly lowered herself back to the ground. My sentiments exactly. Naruto had actually managed to be standing and was gazing at something in the distance. Sakura didn't quite see how he sympathized with her. The Kyuubi probably healed him of all his aches and pains before he woke. Did it work? Shikamaru groaned from his place near her. The dark-haired boy had even attempted to sit up yet, content to lay on the ground and breathe in the refreshing scents of the forest. Yeah. It was said breathlessly, like even Naruto, who was well known for thinking up crazy, insane, and impossible plans, couldn't believe that it had really happened. Sakura, at one point would have argued that a feat such as time travel was impossible. Such a thing couldn't truly exist. If one traveled through space and time with the intent to change things, then they must have always been destined to do so, and at the risk of sounding like a Hyuga, changed nothing at all, and actually brought about the event they were trying to prevent. It would be a circle. It would have never happened had they not tried to change it, but must have for them to try, which meant it was caused by their interference. You couldn't change a future you knew to be true. But after seeing her world destroyed by a man that shouldn't have been alive, fighting for survival in a world of darkness, accepting that they had truly gone back in time was rather simple. The bright smile that bloomed on her face was a stark contrast to her visible weariness. We did it, guys. Unbelievable, isn't it? But where are we? Shikamaru's second question put Sakura on high alert. She cautiously observed their surroundings. There wasn't anything special about the land, it was a forest, but she knew they were in Konoha. It was instinctual, she supposed, recognizing home. That was the moment she realized Temari and Gaara were not with them. It was for the best that the group of 5 wasn't discovered together, because how could Shikamaru, Naruto, and Sakura explain knowing 2 of the Kazukige's children, let alone why the 3 of them were together at all. She hoped that they were coping with the transition as well as they were. She stood with Naruto's help, wobbling slightly, feeling the familiar swish of long hair, a style she hadn't worn since the Chunin exams. Sakura absent-mindedly threaded her hands through the pink locks. She would definitely need to cut it. Shikamaru exhaled, instinctively reaching for the pack of cigarettes he carried in his weapons pouch. Skin brushed nothing but cold metal. Troublesome. He hadn't started smoking until his sensei died, and his mother would kill him if she ever caught him with a cigarette in his mouth. He would need to be diligent about not getting caught and blaming the scent of smoke on Asuma. We're 12 again, physically. Mentally, I just watched as you almost died. Naruto couldn't hold back a flinch and nodded once. That was the first thing he had noticed, his future memories still as clear as day, his old bright orange jumpsuit, Shikamaru's lack of a flak vest, Sakura's long hair and old red dress, and their shorter statures, of course. He was once more the shortest person on Team 7. His eyes tore open at the thought of Team 7. Kakashi. Sasuke. Both of them were still alive. One look with Sakura conveyed more than he could say with words. They had a second chance to save him. Naruto knew that would be a task for him and Sakura. Despite Sasuke's help in the end, the rest would still see him as the man he would grow up to be. The man that destroyed Konoha. But that person wasn't the real Sasuke. If they could keep Orochimaru from giving the curse mark to Sasuke, so much would change. He wouldn't leave the village, eventually joining up with Madara. Right now, Sasuke was a traumatized 12-year-old boy who hadn't gotten the help he needed. This time Naruto wouldn't let him leave. He would prove that Konoha was not the pit of selfishness that Sasuke viewed it as. He would be there for the man he considered his brother. Shikamaru watched silently as his comrades communicated with just looks. It wasn't hard to understand their desire to save their teammate, but Sasuke wasn't redeemable. The man had killed everyone in the village, despite knowing the true reasons behind Itachi's actions. He wouldn't stop them from trying, but he also wouldn't hesitate to kill Sasuke if he ever showed he was turning against the village again. What the hell do we do now? Pretend that nothing has changed. We go back to the village. Contact Gaara. Make plans. Change the future. When he ignored the ludicrous orange clothes, seeing him stand with his hands clasped behind his back and raising himself up to his last inch, it wasn't hard for Shikamaru to see the Hokage that Naruto had become. It was almost hard to believe that the boy who had failed the Genin exams 3 times would actually go on to become the strongest shinobi the world had seen. With the benefit of future knowledge and experience, and the extra time they had been graced with, Naruto would rise to become a god amongst shinobi. A devastating force that no one could stand against. Plan of action agreed upon, the 3 time travelers walked the well-known path back to the main gates. The sight of the village, intact and teeming with life and color, took Sakura's breath away. Shikamaru had to slap her on the back to remind her to breathe. It hadn't been so vibrant in 7 years, and she vowed to never see it that way again. Slipping through the substandard patrol and past the gate guards Izumo and Kitetsu was easy. Konoha was in peacetime currently and only had a single jounin walking along the wall. The 3 separated, each heading towards their own home to prepare for the days to follow. Tomorrow they would fall into place with their genin routine, acting the charade of innocent genin, seeing loved ones for the first time since they buried them. Shikamaru was the first to give a lazy wave as he headed towards the Nara clan compound on Konoha's eastern side, right near the forest, so the deer had plenty of space to graze. He had already formed 24 different plans that would result in a different version of the future. The only problem was every one of them involved killing Sasuke. Shikamaru would always be loyal to the Leaf, to Naruto. Naruto was his Hokage. And that was the only reason he hadn't taken the Uchiha by surprise and slit his throat in his bed. Killing Sasuke would hurt Naruto, and Shikamaru couldn't hurt him. Nostalgia hit him from every side as he walked the cobblestone streets of Konoha. In his mind he saw its final moments. An entire village in flames. Echoing screams. He had never been close to Sasuke and could only imagine what it would be like to lose your entire clan. Shikamaru had never wanted to experience it. But he had. Sasuke had not been satisfied with the deaths of the ones who had ordered his clan massacred. He felt the whole village deserved to face his vengeance for being part of the problem that brought about the Uchiha massacre. Sasuke had become the more infamous of the Uchiha brothers that night for slaughtering every man, woman, and child in the village. And suddenly Shikamaru knew what it felt like to lose everyone close to you. Not only had he lost his clan, his parents, that night, but Choji as well. Remembering that night filled the Nara boy with nothing but bitterness and a deep desire to thrust one of his knuckle dusters under Sasuke's throat. He was glad that it was late when he arrived home. He did not think he could handle seeing his parents alive at that moment. Sakura was the second to enter her house. It was a simple 2-story building in the center of Konoha's civilian district. No doubt her parents were already asleep. Her relationship with them had been strained, like a string pulled taut, ready to snap at any moment from being stretched too thin, ever since she announced she wanted to be a kunoichi. Her parents didn't understand ninja, and like most civilians thought them all to be cold-blooded killers. It was the last profession they wanted for their only daughter, but Sakura was adamant about attending the academy. In the end, her strong will won out. She recalled, after the fiasco of an A-rank mission, that her parents had begged her to quit, hoping now that she had seen with her own eyes the brutality of a shinobi lifestyle, that she would see reason. But Sakura didn't quit. If her parents knew what the future held and the heinous acts she committed in the name of her village, they would have been horrified. While she now had a chance to repair her relationship with them, Sakura knew she wasn't going to. Her parents would never understand her. And she didn't need them to. All that mattered to her was that history did not repeat itself. This time she would not hesitate. Naruto trudged through the poor section of Konoha. The streets were dirty. No amount of D-rank missions could keep them clean. The villagers glared at him as he passed, not bothering to lower their whispers of demon boy and monster. He felt the Kyuubi's anger stirring behind the seal, anger on his behalf. Naruto had never blamed the civilians, anyone really, for his situation. And after having met his father, he understood and agreed with sealing the Bijuu in him. He disliked having to deal with their insults, anger, and abuse again, but he could. He had lived through it once. Now their opinions didn't matter. He loved his village. He became Hokage to protect it, everyone living in Konoha and its future. He would earn their acceptance once more. And because he was Hokage, he would make sure it was never destroyed. Naruto would start with a combined sand and sound invasion. If he took out Orochimaru before the exams even began, that would solve Sasuke's defection. The whole future hinged on Sasuke's decision to join up with the Snake Sannin. It was a scary thought, but if they could just cut off the snake's head, they could stop the problem before it existed. And there was nothing Naruto wouldn't do to protect his precious ones. Naruto Namikaze would die before he saw his village reduced to an expanse of ashes. Naruto knew that the day was going to be a bad one. It started when he woke, at the early hour of 6 o'clock, just as the sun was rising, to a gloomy overcast day. The sky was gray, the streets were bare. Nobody but the shinobi ventured outside their doors. The years of conditioning meant that Naruto would not be able to return to his sleep. Not that he wanted to. His dreams were filled with painful memories he'd rather forget. He had witnessed them firsthand and had no desire to relive them every night. They were a reminder of his failure. The blonde threw on his orange jumpsuit and jumped out his window. Sakura and Shikamaru would be rising. Early morning was the only time the three would be able to meet without curious eyes watching, and they had a lot of work to do. Sakura groaned when a tapping sound disturbed her sleep. It had been so long since she last slept in a proper bed. Its softness felt like heaven. She wanted to ignore whoever it was knocking and snuggle deeper into her covers and sleep for 10 years. But the irritating noise persisted, so Sakura was forced to throw off her comforter. Pushing up her window, she drowsily snapped a what? At the blonde balancing on the edge of her non-existent windowsill. It was not the prankster her hazy brain expected, but her Hokage. We need to grab Shikamaru. We have less than a month until the Chunin exams. Sakura nodded solemnly and Naruto quickly left to fetch Shikamaru. She was following after him in less than a heartbeat. Her hair had been sloppily trimmed last night, so she simply brushed the wrinkles out of her clothes. They met their third conspirator outside the gates of his compound. If she hadn't known better, Sakura would have thought he decided to spend the night out there. But he would not have passed up the chance to be close to his parents. Shikamaru led them to a relatively unused plot of land in the Nara forest. It was the best place to meet because only Naras, and those they brought with them, were allowed in. He and Sakura looked to Naruto first. He removed 2 simple scrolls from his pouch, Sakura's green orbs widened in recognition. Naruto had created the seals for this just before Konoha had been destroyed, annoyed with a day or more wait to receive messages from Suna. The 2 villages had been coordinating to fight Madara, and wasting time waiting for a reply hindered their efforts. I've already drawn the seals. The seals connected the 2 scrolls, so that when chakra was added to a message it would disappear and reappear in the connected scroll. It was a completely undetectable method of communication that had been used heavily by the cages to coordinate movements against Madara. I'll send the second one to Gaara. Right now, the most important thing is training. Retraining to be precise. The first time I tried to activate the seals I blew my coffee table to splinters. Our bodies aren't ready to hold the amount of chakra they currently are. We have 4 times what we had at this age. For Naruto, that was saying a lot. Even as a genin he had had the chakra capacity of a jounin. If the jutsu sent them back with the level of chakra they possessed at the time, he would have more than a kage. That means our control is back at square one. Observed Shikamaru. Naruto, obviously would have the most trouble relearning chakra control. The task took him several days the first time he learned it, and with the amount of chakra circulating in his coils now, he was more likely to blow up the tree than walk up it. It would be much easier for Sakura. Although her amazing control came from her smaller reserves, as soon as she regained enough control, she could reform her yin seal and store the excess chakra in there each day, gradually reducing the amount until her body could handle the full amount of her chakra. Shikamaru knew it would be a struggle for him. At this age, he didn't have the stamina. Because of that he would exhaust much faster and it would take him much longer to relearn it. He and Naruto would have to channel the remaining chakra into chakra-intensive techniques just to get it out of their system. But, despite the problem it presented, that larger reserves would come in handy. Yes. Chakra control is our first priority. Knowledge of the future won't do us any good if we overpower every jutsu and literally explode everything in sight. So they focus chakra to the soles of their ninja sandals. Naruto put one foot on the tree and it broke, taking down two others with it. Sakura thought her best bet would be to not concentrate on the amount of chakra, but to do it instinctively. Her first run up the tree resulted in her foot drilling through and the two boys having to help her out. Shikamaru had learned this technique years ago, for controlling shadows require precision control of one's chakra. In the end, he made the most progress, a single foot up the tree's trunk. The trio trained for 3 hours, making very little success, before Naruto and Sakura had to leave to meet with the rest of Team 7. Even though Kakashi-sensei would always arrive 3 hours late, all the members of Team 7 gathered at their training grounds or the bridge at the time the Jounin picked. Sasuke probably wouldn't question it if Naruto was late because the blonde was always the last to arrive, but Sakura never failed to appear on the dot. And while he certainly wouldn't comment on it, Sasuke would watch them more closely and they couldn't afford to raise any suspicions. Naruto's prediction had come true. The day went from bad to worse. Kakashi chose that day to have them spar as a team. Meaning Sasuke and Naruto would attempt to beat the other black and blue to the point of hospitalization, while Sakura hesitated on the edge, cheering for her crush and yelling insults at the blonde. Another regular day for Team 7 until the spar started. The second start left his mouth, both Naruto and Sakura had leapt backwards, the pincat instinctively taking up position slightly behind him on his right. Both angled their bodies to give them the widest range of motion and to put the other at their back. They moved in unison, like a pair of seasoned jounin that could read what their partner was going to do before he moved. Naruto could sense Kakashi's piercing gaze and knew that they screwed up. Not even a day in the past and they had already made a mistake. The newest Icha book had come out that day. Kakashi had stood outside the bookstore all night so that he could be the first in line. He would tell his students to spar and read this literature masterpiece and call the exercise over when it seemed like Sasuke would kill Naruto. But he found the spar riveting. It stole his attention. First, Naruto had not made any loud declarations about wiping that damn smug look off the Uchiha's face and how he was going to beat him this time, believe it. And consequently, Sakura had not yelled at Naruto for insulting her precious Sasuke-kun. The two had paired up against Sasuke, probably in hopes that they could take him out if it was 2 against 1. It wasn't a plan Kakashi believed to have a chance of success. Sasuke was in a league of his own when it came to combat. The plan was just unexpected, weird, because Sakura was not a fighter and always looked to the dark-haired boy for instructions. Now, however, she seemed to be taking her cues from her blonde teammate. She had moved backwards first, almost like she was expecting Sasuke to attack from behind and was in position to intercept him should he go after Naruto. Sasuke hadn't blinked at his teammate's unusual behavior until Sakura unexpectedly put herself between his kick and Naruto. The girl had frozen just before the attack connected and Sasuke's strength sent her crashing to the ground. That was when Kakashi became concerned. Sasuke had not shown any regret for injuring his female teammate, who was currently biting her lip as she cradled a broken arm. Then Naruto's body language changed and Kakashi swore he saw the image of his sensei imposed over Naruto. Rage and determination lined the blonde's face, his eyes hardened until they were chilling. Kakashi had to close his eyes at the image of his sensei frowning like that when he tried to use Chidori in a spar against Obito. The two boys fought and for once Naruto appeared to have the upper hand. He forced Sasuke on the defensive, who barely managed to defend himself and would not have if not for his Sharingan. And then Naruto too froze, fist raised scant inches from the Uchiha's face, and Sasuke took advantage of that to hit the blonde in the gut. When he doubled over retching, Sasuke slammed his elbow down on his neck and Naruto collapsed into the dirt. The spar had ended the way Kakashi expected, with Sasuke victorious, but nothing about it was right. Naruto was clearly holding back, pulling his punches, and he never once used his trademark shadow clone jutsu. Sakura had participated this time, leaping to Naruto's defense, and was removed easily. And unexplainably, both had hesitated when faced with Sasuke's attacks. Kakashi called an end to today's team meeting, reminding them they had a mission tomorrow. Sasuke, indifferent, went off on his to continue training. Sakura helped Naruto off the ground. He noticed that her arm was fixed and the pair ran from the training grounds, leaving behind a baffled Kakashi. That was the final kunai for the Jounin. Sakura had not asked Sasuke out on a date and willingly left with Naruto when she should have been punching him. Fearful for his students, Kakashi followed them. The two had gone straight to the Ichiraku's and ate in silence. He observed them with his Sharingan, seeing no trace of Genjutsu or Henge. Maybe he was seeing things that weren't there. Sasuke might not have actually broken her arm. The girl could have been shocked that he would actually hurt her. It would be her first injury. Sakura had been his only student to come back from the land of waves unscathed only because she did not fight. Maybe that mission had made her realize being a shinobi was not a game, that it wasn't something you did to catch a boy's attention. That mission changed Naruto, too, it seemed. Now that Sakura was willing to train, Kakashi could mold them into this generation's strongest team. They had the basis for it. Sasuke was very advanced, the rookie of the year, capable of utilizing fire jutsus and his Sharingan already. Naruto, with his enormous chakra reserves, in addition to the Kyuubi and his shadow clones, could be a one-man army if he used his head a lot more. Not that he needed to with Sakura on the team. She was the smartest of the three. With a couple of genjutsus, both defensive and offensive, she would be perfectly suited to be the strategist, deftly able to direct Naruto's destructive potential. Kakashi left, satisfied that his students weren't enemy ninja in disguise, anticipating training a team that had the potential to become famous. Now he only had to train them like Minato did him. Shortly after he disappeared, Shikamaru took his seat on Naruto's left. Kakashi's gone. We know. His two students said in unison. How did your day go? Sakura let her head slam on the countertop. Horrible, muttered Naruto. You? The same. Shikamaru had wanted to crush his team in a hug. It killed him to see bubbly Ino, Choji munching an exorbitant amount of chips, and Asuma-sensei peacefully smoking. He tried to play the lazy character they expected, but he found himself reacting to orders when they were given and taking charge of the mission from the beginning, instead of waiting until Ino's and Choji's arguing became too troublesome. At the end of the day, his teammates didn't think anything of his strange behavior, but he was sure Asuma did. I hate this. I have the mindset of a 23-year-old woman mentally, but physically, my body reacts like a 12-year-old. Shikamaru sighed, resigned to the situation. He had known the risks of using the time travel jutsu. He studied it extensively before even letting Gaara tell Naruto it existed, but he felt the benefits outweighed those risks. There could have been a million risks, but the opportunity to rewrite the future was one he could not ignore. He had not considered having to live in a younger body. All day he had dealt with conflicting signals from his immature body and his warfront mind. Naruto and Sakura must have had it harder, having to deal with Sasuke, who they had just watched die. We can't be seen together. Not until after the forest. Naruto stated. The second part of the Chunin exam would give them the excuse they needed. As rookie participants, all the other teams would be gunning for them, so it would be believable for two Konoha teams to work together to survive. Once the Sand siblings arrived, they would be complete. It would be troublesome to sneak around until then, but necessary. But they still had 3 weeks until Gaara and Temari arrived. Naruto would send the red-headed scroll tonight when a messenger bird was less likely to be spotted. Until then, they needed to remain inconspicuous. Naruto absent-mindedly used chakra to leap atop the nearest building. The street formed spider web cracks where he was standing, and Shikamaru was sure there would be a matching pair on the roof Naruto hurriedly jumped off of. And train until they dropped from exhaustion. Too many incidences like this, combined with the fact they stopped using jutsus entirely, would alert their senseis that something was wrong. Naruto thanked Kami that Kakashi had them do menial D-rank missions the rest of the week. Sakura and Shikamaru had made leaps and bounds with regards to getting their chakra back under control, but Naruto felt like he was back in the academy, trying to learn the clone jutsu. He had tried numerous times to make shadow clones. The more copies of him training the better. But every clone was overloaded with chakra and they dispersed almost instantly. Sakura, now that she had regained her previous level of control, had trouble restraining her ability. In the future, she never hid the monster strength she learned from Tsunade. Her temper and fists made her quite infamous in Konoha. But Sakura couldn't shatter mountains at this age, and occasionally a glimpse of her true strength shone through. It helped that she siphoned the majority of her chakra into the newly formed yin seal, hidden beneath wrappings on her left forearm. It reduced her chakra to manageable levels. In Naruto's opinion, Shikamaru had it the easiest. Well, not counting Gaara. Suna was so afraid of him that they wouldn't notice any change in his personality. He only had to act lazy, which wasn't much of an act because all Naras were born with a predisposition to relax at every possible chance. After the last 7 years, Naruto envied him for being able to take advantage of that. Kakashi never trailed them after practice again, but the time travelers agreed not to meet during the day. It was bad enough that he had done it once. If he ever actually spotted the three of them together, or Kami forbid Asuma started stalking them too, they would never get anything done. Speaking of getting things done, Naruto was reaching the point where he wanted to go kill Orochimaru. They had yet to do one thing to prevent their future from unfolding. It was only Shikamaru's warning that cautioned him. If the snake didn't kill and replace the Kazekage, the invasion wouldn't occur and it could be years before they meet up with Gaara and Temari. Naruto thought they would forgive his impatience. If he killed Orochimaru now, he would never bite Sasuke. How could he let an opportunity to save his brother pass him by? But he did as his friend advised. Nothing. The pleasure it would give him aside, if Naruto took out Orochimaru this early, the changes to the future would be drastic. If the invasion did not occur, their knowledge would become pointless because the future would take an entirely different path. When faced with the unknown and letting his village be attacked, Naruto chose to welcome Orochimaru. At least they knew what he was planning. The third Hokage fixed his Jounin senseis with a steely gaze. The Chunin exams were upon them once more, this time being Konoha's turn to host them. The exams were a chance to display a village's strength, a weapon. By showing off the best there was to offer, they showed they won missions from clients and warned off the other villages from thinking about starting another shinobi war. Sarutobi wanted only the best to take part. We shall begin. Kanugi Makyum. My team will participate, Hokage-sama. I might. My team's flames of youth burn brightly. I had them wait a year so they would be the most youthful ones competing. Team Guy will participate as well. Aoba Yamashiro. No sir. My team has recently lost one of its members. Even if there was a replacement I would not nominate them. Hamaki Mimura. I do not nominate Team 16. Asuma Sarutobi. I nominate Team 10. The crowded room of Jounin fell silent. Nominating rookies was not a course of action taken lightly, and most Jounin chose to wait a minimum of a year like Guy. It was all too easy for Genin to die in these exams. I nominate Team 10. The Hokage's son repeated. The Hokage nodded and moved on to the next Jounin. Kurana Yuuhi. The lone female Jounin sensei stood proudly. I nominate Team 8. The Hokage inhaled a puff of his pipe, blowing the smoke out. Very well. If that is all the nominations. What about Kakashi? Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed. He had hoped by leaving the rookie Genin until the end, even the ever-late Kakashi would appear on time. I will summon him. You're dismissed. He waited until the various senseis filed out of his office. You can stop hunting the window, Kakashi. The masked man crouched in the open window. I suppose you're also nominating your team? Yes, Hokage-sama. I have no doubt all three will make Chunin. Sarutobi was surprised by the confidence with which Kakashi spoke. He knew the reason behind Asuma and Kurenai entering their Genin, more for the experience than a promotion. At present, only the Nara boy had the qualities of a Chunin, and it didn't matter if he thought the whole exam was too troublesome to finish like his academy exams. Kakashi shrugged. They've changed, sir. He said. Changed how? Is the Kyuubi affecting Naruto? Nothing like that. There's nothing wrong with his seal. The Sandaime was relieved. He cared for Naruto like a second grandson. Konohamaru treated Naruto with as much respect as he did for the Hokage, going as far as to tell people that Naruto was his brother. Fighting's abuse forced them to mature. Naruto's more level-headed. It's almost like he's another person. He's a shadow of the energetic boy that always shouted he was going to be Hokage. And Sakura stopped complaining and asking Sasuke out. She's buckled down and is learning at a frightening pace. The only one really unchanged is Sasuke. Kakashi finished. Are you positive you wish to nominate them? Yes. Not that I think they'll fail, but if they do it will be a learning experience. But they'll pass with flying colors. If you are sure. We won't hold back. Shikamaru and Sakura both blinked at their leader. As per usual as of late, they were arguing over what to do about the upcoming Chunin exams. They debated every detail, with Gaara and Temari throwing their 2 cents in via the scroll. The Sand duo had confirmed their father's death. Neither sibling had wanted to prevent his murder and shed no tears. To Naruto, that meant he had free reins to hunt down the snake bastard that was about to ruin Sasuke's life. Luckily for him, Orochimaru was slithering straight into a trap, pretending to be the Sound Team sensei. He would be dead before the exams were over, preferably in the Forest of Death, where Naruto could leave his body to be picked clean and torn apart by animals. The main point of contention, because no one was going to fight Naruto or Sakura on the topic of saving Sasuke for the umpteenth time. They'd only be wasting their breath because the pair would do what they wanted anyway, was how to deal with the second and third parts of the exam. One thing that had to change was Sakura's loss. This time she needed to pass the preliminary. That was given. She had sworn 11 years ago that she would no longer watch her teammates from behind and instead walk beside them. There was no way she would be sitting in the stands this year. Naruto hadn't said a word until just now, leaving the arguing to his 2 subordinates. Shikamaru was of the opinion that Sakura's rise in abilities would be too noticeable if she beat Ino this time around, and that for appearance's sake, she had to fail a second time. There's no need for us to play it safe at this point. We're making ripples. They'll spread and eventually touch the other side. We came back to make changes. We will not hide. Madara hasn't and won't start moving for 3 years. That's more than enough time for us to deal with the consequences of making a splash in the exams. This time, I want him to know what he'll be dealing with." The silence seemed tangible after Naruto's impassioned speech. All Sakura and Shikamaru could do was bow their heads, follow their leader's orders and say, "Yes, Hokage-sama." As with every time they addressed him formally, the blonde scowled. He didn't have much time to be Hokage. Sasuke had attacked scant weeks after he had been sworn in. Naruto repeatedly told them not to call him that, both out of respect for the old man and because it wasn't wise to run around calling him the Hokage. He had even tried ordering them, since they insisted that he was their Hokage, not the third. But they had soundly refused. To them, Sarutobi had been dead for 11 years. Naruto was the Hokage. He had earned the title, led them even when the village had been destroyed, continuing to fight for the future, as the will of fire demanded of all Konoha shinobi. Nobody deserved the title more, so when it was just the three of them, Sakura and Shikamaru addressed him with the respect he had toiled for. With Naruto's orders given, the topic of the Chunin exams shifted to teasing Shikamaru about the two major blondes in his life. The pineapple-haired boy pillowed his head on his arms and gazed at the clouds. "Ino's too troublesome. She's like a harpy, always screeching in my ear about not sleeping during training. I get up at 4 in the morning to run around Konoha with you insane people, and she can't cut me a break. I mean, I don't even get to eat breakfast." He glared when Naruto sniggered at him. "She's better once she mellows out," Sakura said fairly. "But she won't do because you plan on keeping Sasuke around," he returned. Sakura shrugged. "Anyway, you know Temari would kill me if I cheated on her. At least you both can be with your lovers. Mine is still a 12-year-old girl that faints whenever I say hi to her," grumbled Naruto. Sakura forced a smile on her face as he continued to rant about the unfairness, how he was the only one that didn't get to bring his girlfriend with him, and quickly decided that she needed to be alone. She had no clue how she was going to deal with Gaara's arrival. So far her plan was to deal with it when he came. Sakura honestly didn't know how she felt about him. Naruto and Shikamaru were lucky. They at least knew that their feelings were returned. It was different for her and Gaara. She didn't know if she loved him. In the war, every day was just fighting, and every night was burying dead and healing the injured. Every moment was filled with thoughts of, will the next one be me or do I know this one? Everyone needed comfort, a shoulder to cry on, a person to hug, someone to just be there for you and you for them back. Sakura took comfort in Gaara, but did she love him? Did he love her? She couldn't answer that. And what about Sasuke? What about Mitsuri? Mitsuri was just a child here in this time, and she was in Suna and never even met Gaara. She knew there had been something between teacher and student. Could she steal him before Mitsuri had a chance to know him? And Sasuke was still all about revenge. He was not evil, though he would walk in the line to get the power he craved. Did she love him still? Did she want him more than Gaara? Did she want him at all? Sakura couldn't answer those questions either. Her heart was torn in two. She and Gaara had spent many nights talking. The Pincat was positive the romantic feelings toward Sasuke were a remnant of her 12-year-old self. The only love she felt for him now was familial. But her heart fluttered at the thought of the future Kazukiage, and she felt butterflies in her stomach every time his name was spoken. Sakura took a calming breath. She would deal with Gaara when he got here. 2/3 of Team 7 awaited the arrival of their chronically late sensei, with a decided nervousness. Today he would give them the forms to fill out for the Chunin exams, and in mere minutes they would see the Sand siblings for the first time since their return. "Where is he?" Naruto growled. Sasuke shot him a glare. "Shut up, dope. And stop pacing. Eyes, let's not fight." "Yes, you boys best listen to Sakura." Kakashi called from his perch on the bridge's support beam. "I'd hate to have to withdraw you from the Chunin exams because you can't work together." Naruto tuned out his sensei's explanation of the exam and his emphasis on it being their individual choice whether or not to participate. He honestly didn't know how he didn't catch that it could only be done as a team the first time around. There was no way Kakashi would ever turn around and tell them to go at it alone after the scare tactic he used their first day. Kakashi would always preach teammates and teamwork first. Sometimes Naruto wondered how he would have grown if he had had a different sensei. Would he have fought so hard to bring back Sasuke? Would he have been more of a rule follower? Naruto couldn't help but shudder. He would probably never follow the rules. His maudlin thoughts were irrelevant. Naruto would never leave a teammate behind. He, Sakura and Sasuke would grow stronger together, as a team. The way it should have always been. The blonde carefully placed his entry form in his pocket, watching as Sasuke already headed in the direction of the training grounds. Naruto spared his pink-haired teammate a look before he raced off to oust Konohamaru's square rock disguise. The scene played out just as he remembered, with Konohamaru insulting Sakura and the mad demon chasing them down the street. The similarities ended after the young boy bumped into Kankuro. Temari snatched Konohamaru out of her brother's hand, grinning at his half-confused half-angered face, and clapped Naruto on the back heartily. He could only watch agog as she hugged the pink-haired girl, and his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when his insane brother greeted them in a similar manner. Sakura felt her face flush when Gaara turned to her after hugging Naruto. He was as handsome as she remembered. He didn't look insane. She couldn't see the shadow of Shukaku in his eyes. She held onto him a little longer than just friends would. Temari's pointed cough broke them apart. "Where's Shika?" "You'll see him tomorrow. His team won't return from their mission until later today." The Suna Kunoichi pouted at that answer. Poor Kankuro couldn't make any sense of the proceedings and jumped to obey Gaara when he said they were leaving. One thing he was sure about. Konoha shinobi were insane. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura met outside the building where the first part of the Chunin exams was to take place. It was no trouble making out the others in the crowd. Their path was blocked by the group of genin trying to gain entrance to the wrong room, guarded a pair of Chunin. Tenten was pleaded for them to let her team through when Sasuke scoffed that only an amateur would be fooled by such a weak genjutsu. Lee once again blocked Sasuke's strike on the undercover Chunin. It was when Lee moved that Sakura saw something unexpected and her arm shot out to grab Naruto's. "What?" "Look there over Lee's shoulder." Naruto stared at a familiar head of black hair and pale skin. "Is that Sai?" Naruto was baffled. Why was Sai there? Was he there the first time? Or had they changed something without realizing it? Sai was lost in a sea of faces as many genin tried to take advantage of the Chunin's distraction to slip into the exam room. Then Lee caught sight of Sakura and made his declaration of love. "My name is Rock Lee. Let's go out together. I'll protect you until the day I die." He gave her a thumbs up, winking and showing off his very white teeth. Sakura felt like her face was on fire. The grief she felt nearly crushed her. Someday Lee just might sacrifice himself to save her. It was embarrassing the first time Lee asked her out, but with Shikamaru, Gaara and Temari present to overhear it, it was mortifying. She could help but glance at Gaara, who looked slightly dangerous, out of the corner of her eye. "I'm sorry, Lee, but there's somebody else I like." Lee trudged away with his head hung, and Sakura scurried past her laughing fellow time travelers. Kakashi met them outside the double-door room to give them one last piece of advice. When the door closed behind his students, he had to mentally wonder if the rest of participants were ready for them. Naruto threw open the door confidently. The beginning of a new future was right before him, and he had both Sakura and Sasuke at his sides. There was absolutely nothing that could go wrong. Not when it was Shikamaru's genius plan. Naruto's inner prankster took control as soon as he entered the room. Hopeful genin huddled in teams of 3 casting suspicious looks at the genin from other villages. He knew a little over half managed to pass this round due to his brashness. This time, now that he didn't have to worry about Sakura dropping out on his behalf, only the strongest would make it to the forest of death. But it would be fun to shake the confidence of the other genins and Ibiki Marino. Naruto was handed a white test paper and giddily to his seat next to Hinata, this being the most and closest contact he had with his future wife since coming back. To her credit, the Hyuga heiress did not faint, but she did duck her head, stuttering too badly to say his name. He would work on her confidence. Sakura had Gaara and Shikamaru had Temari. There was no way he was going to be a fifth wheel. The blonde didn't even glance at his exam when Ibiki yelled that their time started. Last time he had passed with only his name written in the top left corner because the only question that counted was the 10th one. This time he wasn't even going to write his name. His eyes drooped, watching the second and minute hands make circles about the clock face. Last night had been the only chance all 5 time travelers had to meet up. Ultimately they had decided nothing, having spent more time arguing than plotting, and if left Naruto drained. Kami, what he wouldn't kill to get a cup of coffee right now. And some ramen too. Both of them together. He would have to drag the rest to Ichiraku's after the second exam. Did they even serve coffee? Sakura scribbled furiously, cramming more information than was necessary in the tiny boxes provided for answers. Years of being a medical shinobi had resulted in Sakura creating a coded shorthand. She had designed 9 different plans to handle Gaara's reappearance in her life that she could put into effect without talking to him. In short, they were all horrible. If she tried to ignore him, she would only make it more awkward between them. And Sakura didn't want that. She genuinely liked Gaara, he was an easy person to be with. She could be just Sakura and he was just Gaara. But love was a different matter. Sasuke had stomped on her heart once, leaving her unsure if she could love again. Sakura hoped she could. Life in this world would be awfully lonely if she watched the rest of her generation come to find love but found none for herself. Ibiki had never been so annoyed and amused by a group of genin. 5 stood out in particular, which included Haddock's 2 students that Hokage-sama had asked him to watch closely. The boys' lidded eyes were fixated on the clock and the girl was warping the desk by drumming her fingers rapidly. The boy hadn't even picked up his pencil, unlike his pink-haired teammate that stopped writing within the first 5 minutes. Both now put on bored expressions. His exam was supposed to shake them, not be an hour for nap time. At that thought he looked to the lone Nara sitting towards the back. He, too, appeared to have already finished or could not be bothered. With Nara's both options were possible. He was making calf eyes at the Kunoichi from Suna who giggled and winked back. Flirting. In his exam. They were supposed to be quaking in their seats. He would have to make the 10th question harder. Now before we get to it I would like to go over the added rules for this question. Ibiki said as the final 15 minutes began. First I will give you the question. Do not interrupt me while I do so or your points will be reduced to 0 and you'll fail. At the end you will have 2 choices. Ibiki released a minor amount of killing intent which had genin shaking in their seats. The poorly disguised shocked looks on the time travelers' faces did not escape his attention and he mentally stored away their odd reaction. Their village issues a time-sensitive mission. Shock morphed into alarm. This wasn't the 10th question. Ibiki had changed the 10th question. How could they foil Orochimaru's invasion if they couldn't guarantee their advancement to the final exam? You encounter the target, only it is in the hands of a team of jounin from a different village. Under no circumstances are you to allow the other team to abscond with the target. You have 2 choices. To continue the mission to retrieve the target, taking your chances against a stronger opponent, or you radio for backup and risk losing the target. Silence, answered Ibiki. If you would choose the first option, if you would attack the enemy team, remain seated. If you would choose the second option and risk failure, leave the room. But no, should even one team member choose the second choice, then his teammates must leave as well. Missions are completed as a team so all members must pick one option. Those teams that pick the wrong choice will never be allowed entrance to another Chunin exam. Sakura chewed her bottom lip. It was a situational question, similar to what happened to Team 7 during their mission to Nami no Kuni. They should have returned to the village for reinforcements once they learned Tazuna was being hunted by shinobi, but they had pushed on, facing Zabuza and Haku. Wasn't the mission priority? That's why Team 7 continued to protect the bridge builder. Was the right answer to fight the enemy for the target? The 2 teams from AIM and one of Takigaku's teams walked out of the room. I'll ask you again. Your life is riding on this decision. What were they supposed to do? The mission had to be completed and there wasn't a lot of time to wait for reinforcements to arrive, but it was foolish to fight an opponent you stood no chance against. A chair scraped as Naruto stood, strolling out the room confidently without a second glance. Sakura didn't even think before finding herself on her feet. She and Shikamaru had stood in unison, trailing after their Hokage. Gaara and Temari right behind them. Numbers 31 and 92. Please exit the room. Jaw-clenched Sasuke stormed out. The blonde was leaning against the wall, one leg bent at the knee and propped on the wall, with Shikamaru and Sakura flanking him. The door hadn't even closed behind him before he was shouting at Naruto. What the hell was that, dope? We're ninja. We have to finish the mission. Two cerulean orbs pierced him. You haven't learned anything from Kakashi-sensei. Always look underneath the underneath. Missions are failed every day. Konoha does not waste lives. Sasuke opened his mouth to argue when the doors opened once more and teams 8 and Guy joined them. Niji looked just as happy as he did. In the end, 10 teams waited outside the doors. The window exploded inward. In a matter of seconds a woman with spiky purple hair and a tan trench coat stood before a banner. She posed in front of it, displaying her lack of modesty. This is no time to be lying about. I am the examiner for the second test. Anko Mitarashi. Now let's go. Follow me. She finally looked out at the crowd of confused genin. 101. Ibiki. You left 31 teams. What the hell happened to your insanely difficult psychological test that was going to weed out the faint-hearted and weak? Ibiki ignored her accusing finger. These are the teams that failed. Anko stared at him perplexed as the genin cried foul. The stages of the exam were finalized and agreed upon by the Hokage before they allowed genin to sign up. Ibiki's was supposed to test their ability to gather information and their willingness to take risks. He had said that those in the room at the end of an hour passed. How dare he change it on her? Here in her perfectly dramatic entrance. All that effort into terrifying the genin before she threw them into the forest of death wasted. Why did you go around and flip the choices for? I didn't. I asked a completely different question. Anko was baffled. Ibiki never made a decision without reason, but what reason could there be for completely changing the purpose of his exam? The Nara boy was flirting. Flirting. Ibiki emphasized. In my exam. The purple-haired special jounin cackled, scarring many of the genin. A genin had gotten under Ibiki's skin. Kami she couldn't wait to go to the jounin station and tell everyone that a genin had rattled interrogator Ibiki. Well, if he was going to make some last-minute changes, then so could she, damn it. The double doors flung open again, revealing Anko Mitarashi. "I am the examiner for the second test. Anko Mitarashi." She repeated. "I want all 30 of you to meet me at the training grounds 44 in an hour. Konoha, no helping the outsiders find their way. If you're not there on time you fail." The woman was gone in a swirl of leaves and dirt. Ibiki stomped into the Jounin station, where the senseis of Konoha's participants were awaiting the results of the first exam, shoving 3 papers at Kakashi and Asuma. The other Jounin stared perplexed as Ibiki growled for them to read them. Kakashi shrugged. Then blinked. He couldn't understand a word on Sakura's. It was gibberish. "Whose is this one?" he asked, waving the blank test. "Uzumaki's." Kakashi laughed. It was just like Naruto to luck out. He didn't answer a single question. The boy didn't even write his name. When I changed the question the boy did even hesitate. Walked right out of the room without looking at his teammates. Ibiki raged. "What does yours say?" Kurenai asked Asuma. Shikamaru wrote an essay on why Ibiki's exam was pointless and pointed out all the flaws in his method. "Listen to this. This whole exam is poorly designed. With the length of time you spent harping on how cheating would cost points and the fact that the questions were impossible for a genin who's only Chaz the daimyo's wife's cat to answer, it was glaringly obvious the purpose of the exam was to steal information. It would have been better to say explicitly that cheating would not be tolerated and anyone caught disqualified their team. Given that Chunin can take up to B-rank missions, any genin that is too dense to realize the true test was to not get caught is a security risk to the village and should be stuck cleaning rivers." It continues in that vein for a while. Who knew Shikamaru had it in him? Bulgai and Kurenai were amused, the 2 involved senseis were concerned. In the 4 months they had been teaching they had not known Naruto to be strategic, Sakura to not take a test seriously, or Shikamaru to mock authority. There was something weird about those 3 genin because this wasn't the first time the 2 senseis had seen them acting out of character. Kakashi had brushed it off, attributing to their maturing. Asuma convinced himself he was imagining things. They clearly couldn't ignore it anymore. Gaara, Temari, Shikamaru, Sakura and Naruto converged in the hidden clearing in the Nara's forest. Naruto was pacing. "Things have changed," Gaara said quietly. "The final question." "That's not all," said Sakura. "What do you mean?" Temari asked sharply. "Earlier we saw Sai. Was he in the exams the first time? Did you guys ever come across him?" The 2 Sun-nin shook their heads in the negative. "But why has it changed?" Naruto demanded. "We haven't interfered in any way yet." "I think," Shikamaru said slowly, "that our presence here has caused ripples. No matter how hard we try, we can't hide the fact that we've changed. From their perspective, our personalities have done a complete 180 for no reason. This world is changing in response to our more mature selves, taking the place of those that should be here. Look at it this way, time isn't linear. It can't be. Otherwise Ibiki would have given us the trick 10th question. This shows that there are different lines it can follow. It would be too complicated to go into the concept of alternate or parallel realities. The point is, something caused Ibiki to change his mind. But what? And what else will change? Anko's already making changes to the second exam. How can we prevent our future from happening if we can't trust our past? I think we should focus on the second exam. No matter what changes, we all need to make it through the forest," Temari said. Naruto's face darkened. He wasn't all that concerned with passing the Chunin exams. He could be a genin for the rest of his life. It was only a ranking and it didn't matter with regards to becoming Hokage. The strongest shinobi became Hokage and he had already earned the title once. Naruto could wait a few years to get it again. His sole focus was to eliminate Orochimaru before the bastard could sink his teeth into Sasuke, both figuratively and literally. And he would seek them out in the forest. "Sakura and I'll handle Orochimaru. You 3 focus on finding the scrolls." He gestured for his 4 companions to move closer. One at a time he formed a string of hand seals and pressed 2 fingers to the palm of their hands. Juinjutsu. Saseki sh plus Ru. They watched mesmerized as black lines writhed on their hands, taking the shape of human. "What is this?" "It's a tracking seal," he explained. "It'll allow me to know where you are at all times and you to find me. I think mine has wings. Does that make you my guardian fairy?" Temari teased. "Not a chance. This is just in case we get separated. If you need help just focus some chakra into it. The rest will flare and turn red. When we find Orochimaru it'll turn blue. Do not try to interfere. This is Team 7's fight." Naruto's confidence did nothing to booster Sakura's. Defeating Orochimaru would be no easy task and it was Sasuke who had done it originally after learning from and living with him for 3 years. And even he failed to kill him. They had 3.5 days to find the snake before he found them. The forest of death was huge. There wasn't enough time. 3.5 days was not enough to work up what they achieved in 3.5 years. They needed a foolproof plan to catch Orochimaru and a few dozen backup plans just in case. They would need a miracle. Or maybe they needed teamwork. Shikamaru, Gaara. What gates did you guys start at? I have a plan. Temari glared at the insane proctor, who did not react. The entire forest was covered in a layer of snow. How the hell had she produced snow in the middle August? And why hadn't she warned them to bring warm clothes? She lived in a desert, for Kami's sake. She was not dressed properly to spend 5 days traipsing through a forest in the snow. Banko explained the rules of the exam, which thankfully had not changed, and passed around the waivers. Temari wondered, looking at the teams gathered, if there would be preliminaries this time. With only 10 teams, the most that could pass was 15, and they had no plans to let anyone not from Konoha or Suna make it to the finals. The gates opened and the siblings raced in, snow crunching beneath sandaled feet. Gaara replaced them with sand clones, unnoticed by Kankuro, who was afraid of being trapped in close quarters with his insane brother and therefore ran ahead of the two. Gaara and herself, along with Shikamaru, were responsible for dealing with the other 4 teams and procuring their scrolls. The only problem Temari foresaw was making sure the last 2 scrolls found their way into the hands of Konoha's teams that lacked someone from the future. Neither would accept it from them at this point, nor would they take it from Shikamaru. Shinobi did not take well to pity or freebies. Sakura worried as Naruto gathered natural chakra. Slipping away from Sasuke had been easy, considering that he could spot an impostor in less than 3 seconds. Apparently, like the Byakugan, the Sharingan could not tell the difference between clone and caster. She knew Naruto had mastered Senjutsu, he had never tried it at 12, and he never had so much chakra. If he started turning into a stone frog there wouldn't be anything she could do. Thankfully he had no problems. The duo had slipped through the foliage like a ghost, leaving no tracks in the snow for Sasuke to follow. Once they were 100 meters in, Naruto sat cross-legged in the snow, closed his eyes and concentrated. After moments orange-rimmed eyes snapped open. He's not here. What? Naruto climbed to his feet angrily. Orochimaru. The bastard's not in the forest. Are you sure? He can hide his presence. Not from Senjutsu. Everyone's chakra is a spot of light. One the size of Orochimaru should have been obvious, but there's nothing. He's not in the forest. Does that mean he didn't join the exam until the 3rd day? Sakura pondered. Or has the past changed again? The blonde shook his head. I don't know. Let's catch up to the others. He hoped they had been more successful than he was. Gaara, Temari and Shikamaru did have more luck. Through a combination of Temari's blustering winds taking teams by surprise, Shikamaru's shadow attaching to theirs and locking them in place, and Gaara's sand, which could lift the scroll or threaten to crush a team unless they agreed to hand it over, they had already collected 3 scrolls. They were suitably shocked to hear that Naruto couldn't sense Orochimaru. The issue of Sasuke aside, they could not prevent the invasion and the Sandame's subsequent death if they could not deal with the snake now. All their plans hinged on Orochimaru dying in the forest of death. Let's just head for the tower. We have the scrolls we need. Your comrades have to earn their own way, we can't just hand them a pass. It's only the 2 teams from AIM. They won their scrolls last time so they can do it again. Otherwise, there's nothing we can do. Temari had a point so they set out for the tower. Naruto took point and Temari and Shikamaru naturally gravitated towards each other, leaving her to take up the rear with Gaara. The silence was awkward and stifling. She glanced at him out of the corner of her eye to find him staring intently at her. She was going to have to talk with him sooner or later. Perhaps it would be best to get it over with. At least no one else would be privy to their conversation. Gaara waited patiently for Sakura to acknowledge him. Her nervousness showed in the paleness of her skin. He had had time, isolated in Suna, to contemplate and thoroughly pick apart his feelings. The war was hard on everyone. No one came out the same as they went in. Gaara hid it well, but it affected him too. He had been named regimental leader. It was his job to command the troops, place them on the battlefield, and he had ordered them to their deaths. Orochimaru's absence was disturbing. He had no desire to send the world to its end a second time. Having Sakura beside him had helped. Maybe it was because she healed those lives he threw away and cried over those she couldn't save, but she understood his feelings. The regret and the determination to wake and do the same thing because the war had to be fought and it was idealistic to believe that there would be no casualties. So, over the course of the last month, Gaara had come to the conclusion that his feelings for the pink-haired Kunoichi were real and not just a byproduct of war. They had spent many hours together, simply enjoy the other's presence and warmth, swapping tales of missions and talking about the differences in their 2 villages. Sakura had only been to Suna once when her team had leapt to his rescue and she had saved Kankuro, but she said she would like to spend more time there. It was that moment, as they lay beneath the twinkling stars and she turned her ethereal face towards him and said I'd love that, to his invitation, that Gaara was struck by the multitude of his feelings. The Sabuku no Gaara, the Godin Kazukiage, was in love with Sakura Haruno. It had been a novelty for him, growing up without love, and he wasn't going to let her go without a fight. Sakura. Gaara. She whispered. My feelings are unchanged. She whispered his name again. I want you with me. I want to protect you when you can't defend yourself and trust you to always have my back. I want to be your strength. Her emerald green eyes glazed over with tears. I'd like that. She had overcomplicated it, looked into their relationship too much. At the end of the day, neither Sasuke nor Mitsuri could ever fully understand them, and she didn't want Sasuke. He was her brother just like Naruto. Speaking of, you get to tell Naruto you're dating his sister. Gaara smirked. Fukuku, isn't this an interesting collection of genin? 3 little leaves and 2 specks of sand. How did you come to be working together? This is a team test. Naruto's eyes blazed as they locked on the snake peeling away from a tree. He released the full force of his killing intent and the Kyuubis, taking delight in the momentary look of fear on Orochimaru's white face. Oh. He snapped at Temari, Gaara, and Shikamaru. But. Now. Shikamaru was the last to leave, pausing at the edge of Naruto's vision. Naruto's tone softened. Trust me, Shika. The dark-haired boy nodded. He had put his faith in Naruto when the man had saved their village from pain. Naruto had never taken that faith for granted. On more than one occasion he rose up to face the impossible and walked away the victor. He had become a legend, his Hokage. Shikamaru put his trust in Naruto and never looked back. So he would trust him to deal with the traitorous Sannin. Don't take too long, this is a time test. We won't. The battle that followed was like a choreographed dance. Blows were traded back and forth with the Sannin easily defending against the 2-time travelers. An extra decade of experience and significantly larger chakra reserves did not make up for their physical shortcomings. The forest quaked and trees toppled under Sakura's fists. Naruto's Rasengans and Rasen shurikens tore up everything, snake summonings, trees, and forced Orochimaru to replicate his body and drop the shell of the Kusagakure Kinmochi. Ninjutsus clashed with great force, ravaging the surrounding area. Explosions sounded, metal clanged and blood splattered the ground. Your little friends will not reach help in time. Naruto laughed coldly. We don't need help. 3 water dragons condensed courtesy of Sakura, drawing up and arsing down at Orochimaru from 3 sides. He evaded with a simple substitution, and the dragon slammed into a log. The Kyuubi's Jinchuriki was already on him, cloaked in the orange flames of his tailed beast mode. Orochimaru's eyes had widened, long tongue swiping across his lips in anticipation. The boy was hiding his talents from Konoha. None of his spies had reported the ability to work with the Bijuu he held. Perhaps he should give his seal to this boy instead. No, while powerful, he could not learn all the jutsus in the world without Sasuke-kun Sharingan. Green chakra extended from the girl's hand, sharpening to a point she wielded with ferocious accuracy. A medic nin like his Kabuto, using medical ninjutsu to kill as well as heal, she aimed for vital points and actually managed to hit his right thigh and left shoulder as she used him to flip over. Immediately his movement slowed, the muscles cut. These brats were more annoying than he thought. They should have been unable to stand up against him. His mouth opened wide like a snake's as he prepared to shed this injured body for a pristine one. Naruto covered the distance between him and the legendary Sannin in the blink of an eye. His right hand traced a seal in the air. Orochimaru's chakra fizzled. What did you do to me? He hissed, enraged at not being able to access his chakra. Naruto stood, ignoring the wound to his side that was already knitting itself back together. A binding seal. Your chakra and soul are bound to the body you're currently in. The 2 teammates moved as one, Naruto shoving a Rasengan into Orochimaru's chest as Sakura slammed a chakra scalpel into his heart from behind. They stared at his fallen body, his blood quickly pouring from his body and soaking the earth. It was like a dream to Sakura and Naruto. They had actually killed Orochimaru of the Sannin, and with him dead they saved Sasuke. Let's go, Sakura. Hi, Hokage-sama. Don't call me that. Hi, Hokage-sama. Their 3 companions had not gone far. Naruto and Sakura reached their position in a half hour. The duo confirmed Orochimaru's death and the 5 separated, returning to their own teams. While dubious of Naruto's story that his clone stumbled upon the earth scroll they needed in the carnage of another team, Sasuke accepted it. It didn't matter to him how they got the scroll, just that they had it and could now head for the tower at the forest center. He took it upon himself to head to the river to catch fish for dinner. If he left the job to the dopes starve. There was already someone at the river. Sasuke's fingers trailed down to his weapons pouch, curling around the handle of a kunai. That's not necessary, Sasuke-kun. The other genin called. We both from Konoha and my team has both scrolls already. There is no need for us to fight. Sasuke stepped out of the brush, cautiously approaching the silver-haired bespectacled genin he recognized from the first exam. The one with the ninja info cards. Kabuto. Kabuto's face smiled, but the glint of his glasses hid his glare. Lord Orochimaru had confronted the Uchiha's team. But, instead of bestowing the cursed seal on the boy, his master had been killed. Kabuto had felt Orochimaru's death. His own seal had vanished. The Sannin's death was actually a boon for him. Now his empire was his for the taking. All he had to do was give out some seals of his own. And Sasuke would accept his gift of power. Nah, Sasuke-kun, I've already caught plenty of fish. If you want I can give you some and help you carry them back to your camp. Black's eyes looked at him warily, but ultimately accepted his offer. Before the boy could react, Kabuto had sunk his teeth into the junction of neck and shoulder, leaving behind 3 black swirls shaped like the tomo of the Sharingan. Naruto and Sakura leapt at Sasuke's scream. They tore down the path to the river. Sasuke was crumpled on the ground, clutching his neck and groaning in pain. They gently lifted their teammate, carrying him back to their camp. Orochimaru may have been dead now, but they still couldn't stop the bite. Sakura's heart clenched painfully as she and Naruto hid him under the roots of the tree Sakura used last time. She stared at the mark as Sasuke thrashed in pain. Was it all for nothing? They had come back to save him, but still, there it laid, pulsing on his neck. Did it make a difference that they had killed Orochimaru? Would he still turn evil? What would happen when he woke up? Sakura shuddered, remembering the first time he had gotten it, and it chilled her to think of that happening again. The insanity in his eyes. But at least this time Naruto was with her. Hokage-sama. We have an emergency. Awful scenarios flitted through Sarutobi's mind, mostly focused on either of the participating Jinchuriki losing control and unleashing a beast upon Konoha once more. Was it Naruto-kun? Or one of the Kazukiyage's children? The last thing Konoha needed was to go to war with another village. The Jounin that had burst into his office blinked. No sir. It's Orochimaru. His body's been found in training ground 44. The Sandame's pipe clattered on his desk, ashes spilling onto the floor. This was far worse. Sarutobi had made many mistakes in his life. Orochimaru was one of them. His worst one. He couldn't order him killed, despite the atrocities they had discovered him committing. Sarutobi did not know what he had done wrong for the boy to go as wrong as he did. His student's return spelled bad news. Why now, during the Chunin exams? What did he stand to gain from attack Genin? Was he looking to create an international incident, incite war amongst the great nations? They would have to cancel the exams. What excuse would he give to the other villages? Alright, have Anko distract him. She knows his techniques best. I'll have a team of my best Anbu out there. Okage-sama, are you alright? The Jounin asked when his leader turned white in a matter of seconds. Did you say his body was found? Yes sir. Killed by simultaneous attacks to his front and back that caved in and shredded his upper chest, and a direct strike to the heart from behind that stopped it from beating but left no entry wound. The third Hokage sank into his chair. His student was dead. Orochimaru was dead. How could that be? He may have preferred to not acknowledge the atrocities his student had committed, for it reflected on his abilities as a teacher, but Sarutobi knew how far Orochimaru had perverted nature trying to find immortality. What Genin was capable of throwing down with a Sannin and winning. The third Hokage dismissed the Jounin, who hadn't needed the warning that this knowledge was S-class, and did not leave his office, and ordered a team of Anbu to procure the body in the basement of the torture and interrogation tower, where they would make sure that Orochimaru was truly dead. His former student's appearance was a bad omen. There was more to this than he knew. Just what was Orochimaru doing in the Forest of Death? Sakura had convinced Naruto that they couldn't remain in the forest. Although the others had already dealt with the team from Sound, she wanted to head for the tower. There, they could get Sasuke's mark sealed, maybe with a stronger seal, seeing as they would have more time before the second exam ended, a seal that didn't rely on Sasuke's willpower. Naruto and Sakura were all too aware that Sasuke would accept its power if it meant he could kill his brother. The cursed seal stood out starkly against Sasuke's pale skin, taunting them. It was a symbol of their failure. Naruto had promised that it would be different this time. That he would save him. He shouldn't have let the Uchiha out of his sight. I won't lose you again. Naruto swore. Guilt weighed heavily on him, and with no way to lighten it, the blonde-shouldered Sasuke and Team 7 ran through the night. This time when they opened the scrolls it was Kakashi that was summoned. Kakashi-sensei, thank Kami. You have to seal Sasuke's mark. Mark? Kakashi blinked. What the hell had happened in the forest? He sucked in a breath when he saw the pulsing black swirls on Sasuke's neck. Right, I'll inform the Hokage and we'll take care of this. His other two students sagged with relief and exhaustion as he took Sasuke into his own arms. You two did a great job. You're the second team to finish. The team from Suno arrived a couple of hours ago. Sasuke will be just fine. Come on, let's go tell the others. Naruto said wearily as Kakashi vanished. Shikamaru was worried when he learned that Sasuke had still been bitten. Not for the Uchiha, but for Naruto and Sakura. The two were so withdrawn. He had argued that Sasuke could not be saved, but there was a small part of him that whispered Team 7 was capable of miracles. If anyone could have saved Sasuke from his own darkness, it would have been Naruto and Sakura. Shikamaru never imagined that their battle would be so hard. He had returned to his own team after Team 7's fight with Orochimaru, with a face-splitting grin on his face. The Sanin's death was a huge victory for them. He had played it off to Ino and Choji as having obtained their scroll, but he was actually happy that Naruto and Sakura had accomplished what they set out to do, for with the snake dead Sasuke wouldn't leave and set the world on fire until the skies bled ashes. He remembered a conversation between Naruto and Sasuke after the man had razed Konoha to the ground. The smoke was thick, choking. It carried with it the scent of burning flesh. The scent was nauseating and sweet, putrid and sticky, or something like leather being tanned over a flame. The smell of burning flesh was so thick and rich that Shikamaru could imagine its taste. It stung his eyes, readily bringing forth tears, and filled his lungs, making him gag. Sasuke stood atop the Hokage mountain, the only part of the village still intact, watching as Konoha burned. "I never meant to start a war. I only wanted to see Konoha pay for what it has done to my clan." Shikamaru snorted derisively. He didn't fancy seeing the Uchiha's idea of war if setting a whole village on fire was Konoha getting its due. Why did Konoha have to pay? You already killed Danzu and the elders. They're the ones that gave him the orders. You didn't have to destroy the village. What about all the innocent people? Children born after your clan was massacred. Did they deserve to die? And the rest of the world? You've taken your revenge too far, Sasuke. Why do billions of people have to die for a lost cause? Sasuke had laughed at Naruto, claiming the village was never innocent and all those that grew up within its walls would turn out like Danzu and the elders. Naruto shook his head mournfully. "The fire in your eyes is dead. Something's made your eyes go cold. You don't believe that?" Sasuke's answer was to flee. Naruto turned to him then, a passion burning in his eyes that Shikamaru hadn't seen since the Fourth Shinobi War. "I can save him." Shikamaru had thought his Hokage had reverted to his idealistic attitude from when Team 7 still existed. The whole world was burning around them and there was only a handful of shinobi left to fight Sasuke. Truthfully, there wasn't even a point to saving Sasuke. None of the survivors would accept him among them. Shikamaru thought it would be better to end Sasuke and give him peace and then rebuild the world without any Uchihas. But Naruto refused to renege on the promise he made to himself, to Sakura, and to Sasuke. Several months tracking down the Uchiha had culminated in the final battle between Naruto and Sasuke and Shikamaru's change in heart. He rested a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "You're not alone this time. We'll help you save Sasuke." Gaara and Temari nodded agreement. "I know. Thank you." 4 more days brought about the end of the second exam with unexpected results. Hinata's team had not made it through. The grand total of 4 teams had passed. 3 from Konoha teams Kakashi, Asuma and Guy and the Sans siblings. The Hokage, Heiei Proctor for the third exam, Ibiki, Anko and the senseis discussed whether to have a preliminary or let a slightly larger crop take part in the final exam. The finals of the Chunin exam were seen by everybody, from civilians up to the daimyos in cages. It was both a chance to jockey for attention in future missions and a war deterrent at the same time. Genin fought to represent the strength of their countries. The dignitaries only wanted to see the cream of the crop. The Genin with outstanding skills and unique abilities in Kekkei Genkai. The final decision was to forego the preliminaries. 12 was not a very large number, 6 would be too small. The finals would be held in a month. The numbers were drawn. Ino vs Sakura. Neji vs Choji. Sasuke vs Lee. Naruto vs Temari. Tenten vs Kankuro. Gaara vs Shikamaru. The finals are going to be a drag. The invasion shouldn't happen, not without Orochimaru to head it. I wouldn't be surprised if Suna pulls you two out once the Kazukige's body is discovered. We can't take that chance. Gaara said. They decided to continue with the invasion last time because the Kazukige already had it all set up. The 3 shinobi from Konoha blinked. They had thought that Orochimaru had posed as the Kazukige to orchestrate the invasion. It changes nothing. We'll put on a show like the Hokage asked us. Grins were shared. With 4 of them being paired off, the audience would be privy to the fight of a lifetime. Team 7, a sullen Sasuke including, waited for their sensei at their training grounds. Sealing Sasuke's curse mark permanently had been a long and complicated process, but seeing him that morning with a complex seal layered on top had brightened Naruto and Sakura. In a moment of rarity, their sensei was only an hour late. Naruto had joked once that the world would end if Kakashi ever came early. For Naruto and Sakura, it nearly did. The Sandaime was summoning every team that partook in the second stage of the exams individually to learn about their experience in the forest. He was looking for the ones responsible for the death of the Sannin. Sakura knew they were in trouble the second they stepped into the Hokage's office. On either of his sides stood Jiraiya, who, while his body remained relaxed, had a near imperceptible tightening of the skin around his eyes, and Inoichi Yamanaka. One at a time they were subjected to the Yamanaka clan's mind techniques. Luckily, Sasuke went first and was excused before they turned to Naruto. The blonde held his breath as Ino's father rifled through his memories and tried to not look surprised when Sarutobi said he could step out and didn't arrest him on the spot and have him dragged to T&I. Now that that's over, we can get to training. Kakashi gleefully rubbed his hands together as a pale Sakura joined them in the hallway. Not falling in line with their memories, as many things were now that the Chunin exams had begun, Kakashi did not run off with Sasuke to the desert and leave his other two students to their own devices. He had them run through an obstacle course, tied together with chakra strings of course, so they couldn't advance without their teammates. What looked to be a rather plain course was riddled with traps, so the three genin were dirt-covered, scratched, and crispy when they finally completed it. Kakashi then dumped them at the beginning and told them to do it faster. "What's your opinion, Inoichi?" Inoichi Yamanaka straightened. "I sense no falsehoods, Hokage-sama. None of our genin encounter Orochimaru in the Forest of Death." Sarutobi exhaled smoke. "I see. Thank you, Inoichi." The blonde man bowed to the Hokage and left. "And you, Jiraiya. There's something wrong with this situation. Naruto's chakra levels are off the charts and the Naras and his teammate aren't far behind. Physically, they shouldn't be able to hold so much chakra. It's more than I had at their age." The Toad Sage reported. "Do you think Orochimaru got to them as well?" Jiraiya immediately said no. "Sasuke doesn't have this much chakra. Whatever it's from, it's not his. Are there any other explanations?" "I don't know, sensei." "Then we shall watch and wait. Whatever they are hiding will come to light. I went through the same thing. I figured they must have just been looking at our time in the forest. Otherwise we would all be in custody right now," said Shikamaru. "That doesn't explain how they did see them fight Orochimaru. The Yamanaka had complete access to their memories. Even if they were only looking for those involving the exam, there's no way they'd miss that Naruto and Sakura killed Orochimaru," Gaara pointed out. Sakura theorized that Inoichi could not actually look into her memories because of inner Sakura. When she had fought Ino in the preliminaries, inner Sakura had been able to break the Yamanaka's mind-body switch technique, so she could probably prevent Inoichi from seeing anything suspicious in her mind. "I briefly took all your memories of the future and the fight with the snake into my mindscape. They were safely out of reach behind my barriers." Naruto nearly jumped out of his skin at Kurama's voice. Not once had the fox spoken since they returned. He had felt him stir, his emotions blended with his own sometimes, but Kurama had remained silent. Naruto feared that the Kyuubi had used too much of his chakra to power the time travel jutsu and had not been sent back with them. "I've been merging with my past self, much like you were." "Does that mean there are two of you in the seal?" "Yes. You now have all my chakra at your disposal." Naruto nearly burst out laughing. Compared to his 12-year-old self, he was ridiculously overpowered. His own reserves were the size of Tsunade and Jiraiya combined. Add on top of that the full might of the Kyuubi, even if it was two yang halves and not both halves, he had more chakra than anyone in the 5 great shinobi villages. Naruto watched enviously as Temari and Shikamaru and Sakura and Gaara walked away from that night's meeting hand in hand. Despite being back in a Konoha bursting with life and surrounded by the Konoha 12 and his fellow time travelers, he felt so alone. "I wish Hinata were here," he thought. He was the only one whose partner didn't come back with him. And Naruto had no idea how to approach her so he could get her back. Before he had won enough recognition from beating Neji that the Hyuga clan didn't rush their heiress away whenever he approached. This time around, he wouldn't have that chance because he was facing Temari in the finals and not Neji. He supposed it was true that you didn't know what you had until it's gone. Naruto could remember the night he proposed. Naruto had stolen her from the Hyuga compound, spiriting her away to their spot atop the Yondame's stone head. The couple simply cuddled under the stars well into the night and watched the night turn light blue as the sun rose again. Naruto had proudly told her how Tsunade was finally giving the hat to him and she said, "I love the way you smile." The blonde had been struck silent by her simple words. Was love that easy? Was it all about wanting the other person to be happy? To want to see them smile? "Will you marry me, Hinata? 'Cause the spaces between my fingers are right where yours fit perfectly." She had thrown herself at him exuberantly, shouting yes so loudly that they woke some of the villagers. The third Hokage summoned the finalists 2 weeks before the third exam to notify them of a change in procedure. Given the nature of missions, rarely ever done solo, the Kazekage insisted that the finals would be team matches instead of individual matches. Naruto had been over the moon at the changes to the third exam. If there was one thing Team 7 was good at, it was teamwork. Their motto was never leave a teammate behind. In the ninja world, those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Kakashi had instilled that belief in Naruto during the bell test, and he lived by it. This time Team 7 would remain whole. He would not let Sasuke leave them. So the finals being set up as team matches favored Team 7. Kakashi must have known about the upcoming change because he had been developing their teamwork further from the second they exited the forest. Their bonds had grown so much stronger in just 2 weeks. With Naruto and Sakura showing more of what they were truly capable of, Sasuke no longer viewed them as the dead last and the pathetic fangirl. Whenever Kakashi had them fight 2-on-1, Sasuke fully expected to win. The first time he lost to them he scoffed. The second time he stiffened with rage. After the third consecutive loss he realized they had become so much stronger in a short period of time. He recalled their academy days when Naruto couldn't make a single clone and when using chakra exhausted Sakura. Sasuke had never cared where his 2 teammates ran off to when Kakashi called an end to their training. They were only dragging him down. He should be training 1-on-1 with Kakashi. If he didn't train harder and longer and more often he would never kill that man. And that was all that mattered. He needed to improve quicker. He needed to become stronger. Sasuke had been so angry to learn that his curse seal of heaven had been completely sealed. With that power he would closer to his goal. He could feel its power thrumming beneath his skin, pushing against the seal that restrained it. But then they started overpowering him. They moved like they were one mind and 2 bodies, communicating without talking or even looking at the other. After the 7th straight loss Sasuke started thinking. He had never seen this level of skill from his teammates before. Did they continue training when Kakashi dismissed them? If so, just what were they doing to give such a marked improvement? Sasuke had always viewed the Uchiha clan as superior. His clan was descended from the sage of the 6 paths. He wore the red and white Uchiha proudly on his back. And due to his clan relation, he had looked down on his teammates, seeing them as weak and inferior. But that wasn't true. If Naruto and Sakura could be this strong with their own power, Sasuke would too. He would not look to others to hand him power. He would kill Itachi with his own strength and avenge his clan with the power only an Uchiha possessed. Sakura almost thought that Kakashi could see the future with the way he had emphasized team training before the Hokage had even announced the change to the final exam. And she loved him for it because Sasuke was finally seeing how strong the 3 of them could be as a team. Sakura had noticed Sasuke watching her and Naruto closely during training. He studied them almost like he thought they were a puzzle or a riddle that would be solved if he spent enough time working on it. The complete flip in attitude with regards to them thrilled the Pinkhead. They were making headway with him. Maybe, if they won the Chunin exams, Sasuke would see that he could rely on his teammates and depend on them to help him accomplish his goal. He would see that he didn't need to leave Konoha to get stronger. After all, if the dead last from no clan and a civilian girl could become as strong as they did, Sasuke would see that the power, the support, and the teachers he needed were in Konoha. Kakashi had a twisted sense of training. Sakura could see the logic in it. Somewhat. If they observed someone's daily routine they learned more about him. He cheerfully informed his team that morning that for the next 3 days they would be walking in their teammates' shoes. To Kakashi that meant 2 members following the third round for an entire day. Sasuke was up first, and surprisingly their breedy teammate did not complain about their sensei's latest team building exercise. He just told them to be outside his apartment at 4 in the morning. The Sakura, the lack of comments and acceptance and willingness to go along with Kakashi's interesting methods, was proof that he was changing. And for the better. If he came to value teamwork and the bonds they shared, he would never lose himself to the darkness he harbored. Sasuke silently invited them inside the next morning, telling them to help themselves to the food laid out on the table. Sakura's first instinct was to scold him. Onigiri with tomatoes was not a healthy or balanced meal. But Kakashi said that they were to remain silent, just observe and partake in his activities. On the 4th day they would share observations, tips, and criticisms. So the Rosette bit her tongue and grabbed a rice ball. Their dark-haired teammate started training immediately. His mornings were devoted to learning his clan's fire jutsus. As far as using fire jutsus went, Naruto could stand toe-to-toe with Sasuke, his lack of affinity for the nature pushed aside by the sheer amount of chakra he put into the technique. An affinity for a chakra nature didn't automatically make one more skilled at certain jutsus, it only made it so it required less chakra to use that style than someone who didn't have the affinity. It was even more difficult if your inherent nature was weak against the element you were using. Not that Naruto ever let the laws of nature stop him from doing anything he set his mind to. Sasuke trained 4 hours straight until it was time for Team 7 to meet with Kakashi. The silver-haired Jounin made them wait the typical 3 hours before arriving to tell them that they would not meet during their shadowing exercise, but he fully expected them to wait at the Team 7's training ground for 3 hours because they did that every day. The Uchiha boy then trekked a ways into the forest until he reached a clearing with 8 targets that splitting from overuse and weathered with age. Sasuke jumped into the air, twisting and launching 10 kunai. In quick succession 8 of them thudded into the target center. Sakura was curious over the 2 extra kunai until Sasuke walked around the back of a tree to a hidden target. The 10th kunai was supposed to change the projector of the 9th kunai so it could hit the target in his blind spot. Given the worn state of the wooden targets, Sasuke spent many hours attempting to hit the center of every target and was clearly irritated with his failure to do so with the 9th hidden target. Watching Sasuke train his Sharingan was the most interesting thing Sakura had seen all day. He started by loading pressure traps and purposefully triggering them. His red eyes blazed and spun, tracking the trajectory of 100 shuriken and kunai at once. As with his other regimens, Sasuke repeated and repeated and repeated his training, refusing to leave the training grounds until the sky was black. It really was no wonder in the original timeline that Sasuke was always prepared with the amount of time he spent training. The next day was Naruto's turn. Sasuke walked silently beside Sakura. He had known that Naruto was also an orphan, but he hadn't known about the blonde's living conditions. The village provided all orphans a monthly allowance if they promised to enter the shinobi tract. His apartment building was run down. The paint was peeling off the walls. Naruto was quick to usher them out of the district amidst the glares and angry mutterings of the few villagers that were awake, but not so quick that he didn't lock all 3 locks on his door and activate several traps around his door and window. When Sasuke asked about it, Naruto brushed it off as his apartment building got broken into every other day and it was better to be prepared and to protect his home. But it didn't make sense to the Uchiha. Given the money he was given each month, Naruto should be able to rent an apartment in the same building as him. He couldn't understand the reasoning behind the villagers' treatment of him. Sasuke observed Naruto closely, noting how he reacted to the people that spat insults at him or cursed him or denied him service. They acted like Naruto was evil reincarnated there to kill them all, and he ignored them with practice ease. He joined Naruto on his morning run around the village, stretching afterwards as he did, and then watched as Naruto took advantage of his ability to make 100 copies of himself. The blonde separated his clones into groups. It was split pretty evenly between those learning and practicing a few wind-style jutsus and those that walked on top of the Naka River. Without any warning the shadow clones turned on their creator, beginning the most one-sided fight Sasuke had ever witnessed. Although the clones had all the abilities of the original Naruto was dispelling them left and right. When there was only one blonde wearing an orange jumpsuit Team 7 went to Ichiraku's for lunch. Sasuke and Sakura ate 1 bowl apiece, while Naruto consumed 27. Then Naruto did something completely unexpected, which was actually normal for him. He had been nicknamed the #1 most unpredictable ninja in the academy. He gave them a foxy grin, enhanced by the whiskers on his cheeks, and hinged into a nondescript shinobi in Anbu garb. Sasuke and Sakura followed Naruto on the rooftops as he silently appeared beside a Jounin and informed him that the Sandaime had summoned him. Then he snuck up on another and gave him the same story. 3, 7, 11, 16, 22. Experienced Jounin of many years of service never thought to question the dog mask Anbu informing them that the Hokage needed them. And Naruto kept his ruse up until another Anbu relayed the Sandaime's orders that Naruto come to his office. Hackling, Naruto dropped the henge and resumed his bright appearance and led several Anbu and Jounin on a merry chase through the village. And ultimately, when Naruto allowed them to drag him before the 3rd Hokage, and he most definitely let them catch him, the Hokage sighed and gave him a speech about a ninja's responsibility and let him go without any serious reprimands. Naruto's district was rowdier as he walked home. When he suddenly told them he see them bright and early the next morning for Sakura's day and bounced into his apartment, Sasuke had an epiphany. Naruto could henge into anyone, make a new identity for himself, but didn't. He didn't have to be the demon boy. He lived in the worst district in Konoha and the villagers hated him. Why did he choose to suffer their treatment? Because he found friendship in Team 7. Having bonds gave him a reason to live as Naruto. Having precious people to fight for and protect made him stronger and gave him the drive to become even stronger for them. Naruto thought he would be bored walking in Sakura's shoes for a day. They had previously warned Shikamaru of their sensei's intentions, so he didn't join them on their morning run the past 2 days. He had said it was a drag and that he'd run in the afternoon. But, given their unique situation, Naruto and Sakura had to make up a daily routine because there was no way they could bring Sasuke to the Nara forest and include him in their plots and debates on how to proceed with their future knowledge or in their spars to keep their future abilities honed. He could see Sasuke connecting the dots when Sakura started her day after sneaking out her bedroom window with a job around the village's wall. He was seeing the correlation between his and Sakura's vast improvement since Team 7's formation and their nearly identical training regimens. After her run, Sakura continued with physical training, practicing basic taijutsu styles until her body flowed from one kata to the next and she looked like she was dancing. Naruto hid a yawn when Sakura spent her afternoon in the library researching various water style and medical ninjutsus. He half thought she was trying to bore them to death. In the end, the Pinkette's day was the least eventful but most rounded out practice. She took to heart the idea that being good in all areas was better than being phenomenal in one and lackluster in the others. Alright. Now let's share your experiences, starting with Sakura. Sakura gave Kakashi the evil eye for making her go first and assigning her to be the one to criticize Sasuke. The Uchiha wasn't going to take one word she said seriously. Nevertheless. You clearly have amazing stamina. You train all hours of the day, rarely stopping to eat or rest. You would have better results if you took care of your body. You needed a more balanced diet, one with more carbs and meats. And your training would benefit if you found someone else to train with. She sighed when he raised an eyebrow in disbelief. You've learned all you can on your own at this point. All you're doing now is perfecting techniques you already know. You have years to make those techniques second nature. You really should focus on branching out. Also, your Sharingan needs more training. Your Kikei Genkai grants you an incredible clarity of perception, allowing you to track fast-moving objects. Sakura referenced his dodging simultaneously sprung traps. But you've done nothing to train its ability to see chakra perceive or cast ninjutsu. At this level, you need someone else to train with. She concluded. Kakashi didn't give Sasuke the opportunity to fight Sakura's analysis and told him to get on with his own of Naruto's day. You're more skilled than I thought you were. Sasuke admitted. But you stretch yourself too thin. I know that shadow clones transfer memory and experience to the caster, but you use so many at a time that when all of it floods your brain, you only actually get a portion of what they learned. And with your chakra distributed evenly amongst them, you didn't make much headway with your chakra controller jutsus. You would also benefit from training with another person. Fighting yourself is a pointless endeavor. Your henge is flawless. Kakashi took his momentary pause as his cue for Naruto to start, but Sasuke kept going. Most importantly, you need to do something about the village's treatment of you. Silence followed Sasuke's proclamation. He was the only member of Team 7 that was not aware of the burden Naruto carried. Therefore he couldn't understand that Naruto couldn't do anything about how the villagers treated him. He couldn't force them to see him and not the Biju he jailed. I suppose there's something you should know. Sasuke leaned forward at Naruto's admission. That night, 12 years ago. The Yondaime didn't kill the Kyuubi. It's impossible to kill a Biju. They're a manifestation of pure chakra. Instead he sealed it in a newborn baby. You. Naruto swallowed. Me. I'm the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Sasuke fell silent and for a moment Naruto feared that he would curse him, blame him for the deaths of those that died that night. You're like me. Naruto smiled wanly. He supposed that was true. Both orphans of tragic circumstances. Both forced to carry an unwanted burden. Both had access to a terrible corrupt power. Both branded with seals to prevent them from accessing a second source of power. Only Naruto's seal was different, designed to allow Kurama's chakra to absorb into his coils so he could use it safely but not let the fox out. Sasuke's curse seal was 100% sealed off. He couldn't access it at all. Naruto quickly rattled off Sakura's pros and cons. You have great chakra control, though small reserves. You know that physical strength and stamina are your weakest point and you took the effort to work on that. You spend too much time in the library looking up new jutsus to try. You should just pick one at a time and focus on that one. Ultimately, your skills are well-rounded and you have a knack for medical jutsus. He finished. Kakashi clapped his hands. Good job, team. We'll meet back here in the morning. We'll start on anticipating your teammates' move and reacting to either defend or press an advantage. Sakura felt like she had been smacked in the face when she saw both Yamato and Sai at their training grounds. Not once had she thought about the wood user since coming to the past and she had all but forgotten about Sai after he hadn't made it through the first exam. Both males were just as much a part of Team 7 as she, Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi were. This here is Yamato, who's going to help me demonstrate today's training, the masked man pointed to the brunette who held a flashlight under his face. And Sai, who has a unique jutsu that will suit today's training. Sasuke glowered at the boy who could almost be his twin. The same dark hair, dark eyes, and pale skin, not to mention a fondness for dark clothing. If it wasn't for the obviously fake smile on Sai's face, some might have mistaken them to be related. Kakashi then proceeded to show them what they would be doing. Sai's brush raced across his scroll and a myriad of ink creatures leapt of the page. Snarling lions, writhing snakes, charging bears, and flying birds. Even at the age of 12, Sai's mastery of his ink techniques was amazing. But not enough to faze the 2x Ambus. Kakashi thanked Sai and Yamato after he and the wood user thoroughly proved their point. Sai smiled politely and said it was his pleasure. When their sensei said it would be their turn to fight off both him and Yamato, Naruto jumped to include Sai. Do you want to help us, Ai? Your ink jutsu is pretty cool. And we'd have even numbers. Naruto raised his arms behind his head, like he could care less if Sai chose to join them or not, but there was no mistaking his tone that said come here. Sai responded to the blonde's authoritative tone. I'd like that, leader. 5 people stared at him. Naruto and Sakura shared a secret smile. It seemed that Sai's root training wasn't ingrained yet and he still had some semblance of social ability. Or Naruto radiated power. Team 7 was finally all together. There had never been a point in the future when all 6 members were present. Sasuke was gone, Naruto was training, Kakashi was in the hospital, Yamato was kidnapped. They worked together much better at the age of 12 than at 15. Naruto and Sakura each paired with Sasuke and Sai, hoping to tone down their natural tendency to do exactly what Kakashi was trying to teach them. Naruto and Sasuke, past or future, always worked well together when they weren't antagonizing the other or trying to outdo him. And Sai, with his slightly more open personality, was much easier to work with seeing as he wasn't insulting her every time he took a breath. Still, training went down exactly like it had in the future, only with one more genin locked inside the wooden prison. For Naruto, it was the 6th most amazing day of his life, the first 5 being when he met his father, his mother, marrying Hinata, being named Hokage, and using the time travel scroll. Team 7 was whole for the first time in years. And now not only did he have the chance to save Sasuke, but they could save Sai too. At first, Gaara thought he would hate reliving his genin days. Even if he did have his sister at his side, Kankuro was still terrified of him. The villagers hated and feared him again, avoiding him like the plague, hiding inside their houses whenever they caught sight of him. And it would be a few years before he could justifiably take up his position as Kazekage. He didn't get it until he was 14 originally, and no amount of change in personality would convince the citizens of Suna to follow the lead of a 12-year-old boy that housed a demon he couldn't control. But Gaara found himself enjoying it. For one, it really was a lot easier this time around with a Tamari that wasn't afraid he would kill her for talking to him. Kankuro nearly had a heart attack when she laughed at the shadows under his eyes their first day back in the past, teasing him and asking if he had gotten enough sleep with a suggestive wriggle of her eyebrows. But Gaara didn't mind his sister's gentle ribbing because it meant he wasn't alone. Being alone was the worst feeling. It was dark and cold and Gaara never wanted to go back to that place. He was thankful for all the friends he now had and those that he would have in the future, thanks to Naruto. It also helped that he had better control over the Ichibi. His seal may have been weak, the reason for his madness and bloodlust originally, but the overall strength of the seal was moved if Jinchuriki and Biju were working together. And Gaara had appeased Shukaku by promising him the blood of many they would kill for the greater good. For another, he finally experienced the joy of pulling pranks. Naruto had regaled him with tales of his various schemes as an academy student, from painting the Hokage mountain in broad daylight, to flooding the torture and interrogation in Hokage towers, to switching all the Inizuka's dogs for cats. The future 5th Kazekage had the rare chance to have some fun. And what easier target was there than his own brother? They had already set the puppet user on edge when Gaara and Tamari greeted Team 7 the day before the Chunin exams began. Kankuro had nearly popped a blood vessel in his head when his insane brother hugged his pink-haired girlfriend. Gaara didn't think his brother slept even an hour in the forest. The redhead would have sacrificed blood to the demon a lot sooner if it meant he could sleep. After a month of a happy, smiling and rested Gaara, Kankuro was jumping at his own shadow. The best part came when they received news from the impostor Kazekage, stating that the finals of the Chunin exam would be a team event. Logically, the future Kazekage could see the reason behind the change. It was more strategic for Suna to unleash their secret weapon, him, when Gaara had his 2 siblings present to keep the Konoha shinobi off him while he transformed. Kankuro actually fainted. However, the aftermath was not as amusing. With no other choice, Kankuro attempted to incorporate his mastery of puppets to his brother and sister's already combined offensive and defensive strategy. But he flinched every time Gaara's sand came within 3 feet of him. With Kankuro freaking out at every turn about getting crushed by his sand, Gaara imagined that this was how Sakura and Naruto were feeling. Given they may have had it harder having to deal with the Uchiha's mammoth pride. Kankuro would eventually overcome his fear of his brother, coming to trust him and support his choice to become Kazekage. Sasuke's pride would only grow to eclipse his hatred. But Gaara would do whatever Naruto asked in order to save the Uchiha because Naruto had saved him from himself. Shikamaru groaned for the umpteenth time, gazing dreamily at the free-floating clouds. It was actually the 27th, but he only knew that because Ino was complaining about his constant groaning. Being back in the past was starting to lose its appeal. Stars knew he had shed many, many tears over his team's death and would have and did do anything to have them back. But was Ino always so loud, so bossy, so troublesome? The blonde shrieked in his ear like a banshee, mostly over the third exam's twist. The first thing out of her mouth at that announcement was, not unsurprisingly, an exclamation of how cool Sasuke-kun was and how the Uchiha would be able to fight any team, especially those freaks from Suna, which made Shikamaru want to strangle her single-handedly. Then she demanded Asuma start practice earlier to maximize their available time to train. Ino Shikacho is the best combination of abilities. Winning the final exam will be easy, she said with a flip of her glossy blonde hair. But that doesn't mean we can slack off. We have a reputation to uphold. A team designed for their teamwork and compatibility can't lose. We'd be the laughingstock of the village. So Chouge, stop eating. And Shikamaru. You lazy bum. Get up. We just started training, you can't sleep now. Asuma liked Ino's initiative and enthusiasm and was actually encouraging it, pushing his genin to train longer and harder and more often. He even called in their fathers to demonstrate how the older Ino Shikacho trio worked like a well-oiled machine. In the same breath he ordered them to use the time they had out of official practice to further improve upon their clan techniques. Shikamaru had cursed out his sensei to his fellow time travelers for that decision. He was 100% certain that his father knew he was failing at the techniques on purpose. It was all so troublesome. How was he supposed to meet with Naruto and the others and make contingency plans for the impending invasion if his past team was eating up all his time? They had no guess as to who had taken Orochimaru's place as the Kazekage and requested team-structured finals. They had no plan to deal with Kabuto or any idea where he was. The Snake-san and second-hand man had all but vanished at the end of the Forest of Death, probably back to one of their numerous hidden lairs to perform more experiments. In the end, their only plan was to derail the invasion and hopefully save the third Hokage. The Sandaime could still call Tsunade back to the village to take over as the fifth Hokage, and just by being alive he would force Danzu to keep to his shadows. It was a tall order when they didn't have all the answers they needed. If possible, Naruto thought Sai was even creepier at 13 than he was at 16. Ever since he had invited the artist to join their team training sessions, the boy had followed him like a Nara's shadow. He was always asking questions and smiling and calling him leader instead of Dickless. Sakura claimed it was because Naruto was charismatic. It was impossible to not love his sunny disposition. Sai certainly orbited around him like the orange-wearing shinobi was his son. And maybe Naruto was his son. Sai was drawn to him like a moth to a flame. He wanted to learn more about Naruto by observing him, whether he was training, sleeping, pulling pranks, shopping, meeting with Iruka, playing with Konohamaru and his friends, or simply walking. Sai went as far as to follow him home and slip into bed next to him. Naruto promptly shoved him out the front door. Whatever the reason, it unnerved him to see Sai so open and genuinely friendly. But this was the perfect chance to save Sai from Rude and Danzu's machinations. If they could teach him about the importance of emotions and the strength of having bonds, Sai might be able to join the official ranks of active shinobi and not hide in the shadows, robotically carrying out Danzu's every self-serving order. Shikamaru had suggested the first time he and Sakura brought the topic of Sai up after the written portion of the exams that Naruto gain his loyalty and then use Sai to infiltrate Root and keep an eye on the bitter old warhawk. Naruto hated the idea of using his friend like that. Sai did not give his loyalty easily, but once he came to appreciate the friendships he had built with Team Kakashi, he would never risk them. And there was nothing he wouldn't do to keep them. So if Naruto said it jokingly, Sai wouldn't hesitate and offer to do it. His willingness to do whatever Naruto asked killed him in the future. But Naruto was the Hokage first, and if he needed Sai to pretend to be a Root agent to save his village, he wouldn't think twice about asking him to return underground. However, the issue of Sai would have to wait. Naruto was sprawled in the dirt. Both Sasuke and Sakura lay near him, their heads only inches from his own, so that they looked like the letter Y. Kakashi, by means of an unnamed jutsu he had stolen from Akumo Kunoichi, had put a tether on them that only allowed them to move 10 feet away from their other two teammates. And then he gave Team 7 the bell test for a second time. Needless to say, adjusting to the restricted movement took a while. Long enough for the timer to run out. And the second run didn't go so well either. It was harder than it looked to coordinate the different attack styles of 3 close-range to mid-range fighters. "Tomorrow's the big day," said Sakura conversationally. Naruto whooped, punching the air. "And we're going to kick ass and take names. Believe it." "Ah." Sasuke agreed. "Nah, do you guys want to go for some victory ramen? We have to win first, Naruto." "Don't talk like that, Sakura-chan. Of course we're going to win. No one can match our teamwork. Let's go." Surprisingly it was Sasuke that agreed first. "Really, team? You're actually going to come? In that case, dinner's on me." Sakura smacked him upside the head. You would be paying anyway, you idiot, because you eat 20 times what anyone else does. Am I invited to dinner, leader? From what I've read, the evening meal is when you share what happened that day with your family, but I've never had someone I could tell about how horrible my day was. Naruto jumped a foot in the air. That had not changed about Sai. The guy still based all his knowledge of emotions on books he read. Though Naruto was glad that Sai was already comparing Team 7 to a family unit and viewed himself as a part of it. Shit. Don't sneak up on me like that, Sai. Just where did you come from anyway? The pale boy shot him a puzzled look. Well, 13 years ago my father fertilized one of my mother's eggs with his sperm. Whoa. Stop right there. Naruto clapped his hands over his ears, slightly green in the face. I don't need a detailed description of the birds and the bees, believe it. Then why did you ask? It means where were you a few seconds ago, location-wise, not how did you come into being. It's a figure of speech. I see. Naruto seriously doubted that. Sai said the phrase I see as often as he said believe it, which was practically at the end of every sentence. But he decided to introduce Sai to the best pleasure that was ramen a few years early. Sasuke lay awake, staring at the bare ceiling above his bed. He probably should be asleep, resting in preparation for the finals the next day. But he couldn't sleep. His mind was racing. Thoughts coming and going before he comprehended them. Naruto and Sakura were not the people he thought they were. Both of them were much more mature than expected of a 12-year-old. Naruto didn't goof around as often, and Sakura hadn't asked him on a date in over a month. Naruto planned and strategized where he once leapt in with 100 copies of himself screaming to not be underestimated. His mind was sharper. He still used flashy, insanely overpowered jutsus, but in a smarter manner. His jutsu repertoire had increased to include more than just his shadow clone jutsu and his sexy jutsu. And Naruto had this aura around him that commanded respect and obedience. He radiated confidence and intelligence. When the blonde barked a command, Sasuke followed through. When he shouted a warning, Sasuke moved. And Sakura? Had he imagined her fangirling? Mistaken genuine concern for his well-being and invitations for two friends to eat for something less? Did he see infatuation in her because he saw it in every other female that hung around him? Because the Sakura he saw during practice could not be more different. She wasn't talentless like he first concluded. He witnessed her using medical jutsus on daily basis. Even let her heal a broken ankle once when he refused to go to the hospital. He had hidden the injury, carefully distributing his weight so that it would not be noticed, but her green eyes had narrowed poisonously and she sweetly asked if he would let her look at it. Surprised that Sakura had even noticed the injury at all, didn't say anything to stop her from grabbing his leg. She used elemental jutsus too, mostly water, but there were a few earth and 1 or 2 wind and fire, and genjutsu during spars, and the force she hit with immediately left the recipient with large purple bruises and aching bones. As difficult as it was for him to grasp, Naruto and Sakura were not the unskilled shinobi he thought they were. They were stronger than him. It was amazing how much stronger they had gotten since they graduated the academy. If he trained with them more often, would he be as strong? Kakashi's intense team-based training had proven how beneficial working together could be. They had managed to outwit the Jounin and won a spar against him. It was only once, but Sasuke couldn't do that on his own. Kakashi had readily defeated him during the first bell test. Could Naruto and Sakura help him get strong enough to kill that man? Would they let him join them considering the way he had treated them as insignificant since Team 7 had been formed? He rolled over, ignoring the twinge he thought he felt from Orochimaru's cursed mark. Sasuke was being stupid. Naruto and Sakura would never shut him out. Later that night Naruto met the others in the Nara's forest for the last time. No long battles tomorrow. Don't hold back. Finish them off quickly. Naruto ordered. They would need all their chakra to fight of the person masquerading as soon as leader. But won't your senseis and the Hokage find the sudden changes suspicious? Temari asked. Naruto nodded. Yes, but they probably have already cottoned onto some changes and it's only a matter of time before they realize they're not seeing everything we can do. They definitely won't believe that we've improved so much in just a few months. We might have to tell them the truth once the exams are over. You can't tell me you mean to use your Rasen Shuriken tomorrow? Sakura asked in disbelief. That's a dangerous jutsu. S rank. Kakashi said you're not to use it against comrades. You'll tear someone to shreds. The blonde reeled back as if Sakura had slapped him, a sensation he was unfortunately awfully familiar with. What? No. That's not what I meant. I'd never hurt a comrade. Sakura flushed guiltily and looked away from his horrified blue eyes. I think, Gaara interjected smoothly, that Naruto means for us to show off a marked improvement, but nothing that we shouldn't know. However, the more advanced abilities would go unnoticed in the chaos of the invasion. Shikamaru exhaled. Ma, it's easier for you too. You're from a different village. No one knows what you are capable of. The Mari reached a hand over to pinch a cheek. Don't worry. You're such a lazy bastard that no one knows what you can do either. And anything you do tomorrow will be attributed to the Nara genius. Naruto was flanked by Sakura and Sasuke as Team 7 waited for the third exam's proctor, Genma Shiranui, to explain the rules. The fight continues until only members of one team are standing or I choose to end it and how they would be matched up. We decided the only way to do this fairly was to place the two rookie teams in separate brackets. That way, everyone is in the dark about their opponent's abilities. Genma spoke around the senbon between his teeth. To his right Sakura snorted. It was a good plan, a good setup. And it would have worked. If there weren't 5 time travelers present. It seemed the more things changed the more they stayed the same. Team 7 was set to fight Team Guy first. So Naruto could still beat the destiny out of Neji and it would be even easier because, by traveling to the past, they proved that destiny doesn't exist. Not that he could tell the Hyuga about that. And Sasuke would get to fight Lee, a confrontation that didn't occur this time. That, of course, left Shikamaru to fight his future wife again. Team 10 and the Sand siblings left the arena for the viewing box reserved for the competitors. Naruto stared down his future as good as brother-in-law, since Hinata saw Neji as more of a brother than just a cousin. His pearly eyes stared back, disdain evident. Naruto would change that. He had changed the ways of the Hyuga clan once and he would damn well do it again. Hey, team, bet you a bowl of ramen you can't beat bushy brows. Not a chance, dope. We just had ramen yesterday. Do you want something else instead? Yasubi. But the caca and tomatoes right. Sakura added. Ah. Naruto intentionally shuddered. Rice, dried tuna and tomatoes. And he was the one that ate unhealthily. At least ramen had noodles, meat, fruits and vegetables paired together in a manner that was appealing to eat. Just the smell of Sasuke's favorite food put Naruto off his lunch. A challenge. Lee exclaimed, revealing all his sparkly white teeth. Then, I too, Rock Lee, handsome devil of the Hidden Leaf Village, challenge you, Neji Hyuga. The first one to defeat their opponent wins. I wish to fight you, Sasuke-cha. A true test of grueling training against natural ability. I will prove that, with enough hard work, sweat, blood and tears, that the so-called loser can defeat the genius. Are you done yet? Genma asked mildly. Lee ducked his head, his whole face burning up. Right then, first match, begin. Formation U. Naruto shouted. He could feel thousands of pairs of eyes upon him as he and Sasuke darted forward, keeping in line with each other, and Sakura went the opposite direction to cover their backs and prepare for attack plan A. An entire stadium filled with people who simultaneously wanted Sasuke-cha to win but called out for the demon's crushing defeat. The ironic thing, Naruto thought as he engaged Neji with a kunai, was that he had won, while Sasuke lost to Lee the first time they fought. Naruto had no doubts regarding the outcome of this fight. Had they been the 12-year-old Naruto and Sakura that had not yet witnessed war and still viewed the world through rose-colored glasses, Team Guy would stand an equal chance of winning. But their one extra year of experience could not compare against Naruto and Sakura's decade. Honestly, the pair didn't need Sasuke to fight to win, but pushing him away would defeat their purpose of making him see them as his support, his friends, the people that would always have his back. Sakura was already channeling chakra to her right fist as she pushed off backwards from her two teammates. There was a large gray mass in the corner of her eye and she bolted toward it. In 4 seconds she had crossed to the boulder, nimbly jumped on top of it and launched herself into the air over the 5 blurs of fighting genin. Their timing was perfect. Sasuke and Naruto pulled away, with Neji's Byakugan still trained on the blonde, which let Sakura slip through his blind spot and right in between the 3 older genin. Her extended fist slammed into the earth and as quickly as she hit the ground, Sakura was on her feet between her boys. As per her Hokage's order, Sakura withheld none of her strength and her chakra-enhanced fist devastated the arena floor. Screams rent the air as civilian and shinobi alike gawked at the brute strength the slip of a pink-haired girl possessed. The senbon dropped out of Genma's open mouth. Neji leapt clear of a still billowing cloud of dirt, one arm wrapped under the armpit of his teammates. When the haze settled the crowd saw the two teams separated by a massive crater at least 100 feet deep and nearly the size of the stadium around. The 6 genin and Genma only had a small precipice of ground at the base of the stadium's concrete walls to stand upon. The Kazekage nearly threw himself out of the cage's box at Sakura's move. That's quite the show of strength. Scarily similar to Tsunade. In contrast to the leader of the Hidden Sand Village, Sarutobi leaned back in his seat, hands fisting on his chair's arms until his knuckles were white at the tremors. Such strength required a level of chakra control unheard of for a Kunoichi from the civilian sector that had only been a genin for 4 months. Kami, just what are you teaching those students of yours, Haddock? He murmured to himself. The fight moved to the bottom of the massive crater. Haddock. The Kazekage repeated. She's one of Kakashi Haddock's students. Yes, along with Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha, answered the Sandaime Hokage. It's a marvelous display of teamwork, don't you agree? He asked as hundreds of Naruto's shadow clones, previously disguised as rubble and dirt, dogpiled Tenten. Sasuke then tossed 8 shuriken, directing them within invisible wires to circle the weapon's mistress. The clones popped as Sasuke tightened his strings, pulling them taut until only Tenten was trapped in their embrace. He clutched all the wires in his left hand, drawing back as he took in a deep breath and breathed fire along the wires. Ai's mini clone dashed to her rescue, considerably faster than the rest of the genin, slicing through the wires which fluttered harmlessly to the ground mere inches from her. Yes, exceptional teamwork. The Kazuki acquiesced. What he was seeing was more than he expected of a Jinchuriki. Naruto observed the battlefield with a critical eye. Neji, Tenten and Lee were struggling. Team 7 had taken the upper hand in this battle right out of the gate and they weren't going to relinquish their lead. The ground had been caved in, they nearly set the Tenten on fire, Neji couldn't keep atop the sheer number of clones Naruto sent at him, and Sakura intercepted every attack of Lee's, forcing the Taijutsu expert to retreat or kick the girl he loved into the opposite wall of the crater. Team Guy was frustrated. And humiliated. They were getting the worst of a team that had only been put together 4 months ago, a team that included the year's worst student. Neji was clearly starting to get enraged by Team 7's uninjured state. And Naruto was going to capitalize on that. He crouched on the branch of a toppled tree, waiting. As Neji continued to demolish his shadow clones, as Sasuke blocked and dodged Tenten's twin rising dragon technique, his onyx eyes bleeding red. As Lee attempted to double-team Sasuke only to be blocked by Sakura and immediately pull back, apologizing and promising to run 700 laps around Konoha on one hand if he ever hurt her. Naruto waited until Neji was sure that he had dispelled the last clone with a Juiken to the heart, until Tenten had hurled all her weapons at Sasuke, until Sakura got between Lee and her black-haired teammate again. Now. Plan A. He shouted. It was instantaneous. Sasuke performed a Kawarimi, replacing his body with Sakura's. Lee, expecting Sakura's pink hair to streak between him and his target, had halted his punch once more. In that split second of confusion, when Lee met his eyes with surprise, Sasuke cast a Genjutsu. The Taijutsu expert would still believe he was fighting, but it would all be in his mind. In reality he would be attacking nothing but air. And seeing as Lee had no talent for ninjutsu or genjutsu, the green-clad boy was neutralized because he wouldn't be released unless Sasuke himself ended the jutsu or he ran out of chakra to maintain it. Tenten had drawn up all 200 of her weapons of every shape and size by the invisible wires connected to them, intending to pulverize Sasuke by throwing them with her unerring accuracy all at once. Sakura may not have had an affinity for wind-style jutsus, but that didn't mean she was incapable of utilizing them. She used one that Naruto had taught her in the future. Gyuuten. Kamikaze. Several tornadoes twisted above Sakura, catching the weapon's mistress's second attack, cutting the translucent threads attached so she couldn't try a third time, and scattering them about the field. Sasuke prevented the unknowing Lee from getting impaled while Neji used Kaiten, releasing chakra from all of his Tenketsu points and spinning rapidly to deflect the weapons. Sakura pressed her advantage over the older girl, water release. Exploding water colliding wave. A torrential volume of water spewed from her mouth, rising up and crashing down on Tenten. One water prison jutsu, held by a water clone, later, and the bun-haired girl was neutralized. Team 7 realigned in front of the male Hyuga with Naruto in the middle. You know, Neji, that I failed the graduation exam 3 times because there was one jutsu that was on it tripped me up every year. Neji's wide eyes widened as Naruto admitted that he failed the clone jutsu 3 years in a row. So don't whine to me about fate. I know more about it than your beloved clan. And I know that it can be changed. If you don't like yours, fight for a better one. Kakashi watched proudly as his team soundly separated and took down 2/3 of Guy's team, whose sensei was sulking in the seat next to him, lamenting how his rival students were as cool as he was. Guy. I think that makes the score 71-70. Guy shot up, fire burning in his eyes. Don't get ahead of yourself, Kakashi. Neji may not be a taijutsu prodigy like Lee, but he is exceptional at the Hyuga-style taijutsu which has no defense. But Guy was wrong. The Hyuga's Kaiten may have been the perfect defense, but if the user ran out of chakra or could not spin, because the chakra itself was not enough to stop a physical attack, the user became vulnerable. Faced with 3 opponents, it was inevitable that Neji would exhaust his chakra stores first. Hell, just against Naruto Neji would run out of chakra first. Neji seemed to be thinking along the same lines as Kakashi, seeing as he dropped his hands to his side, standing stiffly as Genma called an end to the match from above with Team 7's victory. The masked Jounin beamed as his team was pronounced the winners, and if anyone was looking his way they would be able to see the smile even behind his mask. This was the team that he imagined when the Sandaime told him he had to take on a genin team. A team that worked together like they were a single person. No other team came close to meeting the large expectations he placed on them, but Team 7 had risen to the challenge and forced him to pass them. They were a team reminiscent of Team Minato. Naruto would be Obito, Sasuke was like himself, and Sakura could be just like Rin. You must be so proud of your son, sensei. Team 7 would become legendary. Kakashi would see to it. And he wouldn't let them turn out like his team. A group of Earth users repaired the ground that had been shattered under Sakura's fist. Team Guy was directed to the medical station to receive treatment as Genma called down the next two teams to fight. Ino practically dragged her teammates down to the waiting Sand siblings. It was agreed upon last night, depending on how the teams were paired up, that Shikamaru's team would be the one to lose no matter what team he faced. Gaara needed to make it to the final round for the fake Kazekage to launch the invasion, and Naruto needed to be in position to become Konoha's hero once again. The only team they would have been allowed to fight seriously would have been Guy's team. Even with the outcome pre-decided, Shikamaru knew this match was going to be troublesome. Temari was going to piss off Ino royally by toying with her because he had gone on one date with her in the future. I think we should forfeit. What? Shikamaru, stop being lazy. Don't you want to be a Chunin? Ino. He hissed, cutting off her rant. I saw what that guy could do in the forest. Ino's blue eyes slid to the red head he was pointing at. Gaara stared back impassively. He utterly destroyed a team from aim. There was nothing of them left. Shikamaru mentally begged for Gaara's forgiveness for painting him out to be the monster he was in the past, but it was the only way to convince Ino that they could not fight. And it wasn't like he was lying about what the sand-wielding boy was capable of, for he had once murdered Team Shigeru in the original Chunin exams. I agree with Shikamaru, Ino. Ino huffed. With both boys against her, she really didn't have a choice. Fine. Proctor, we forfeit. Genma blinked, as it was rather unusual to quit in the last round, but accepted their forfeit and named the team from Suna the winner. Shikamaru whistled cheerfully to himself as he climbed the stairs back up to the participants' box. Even if it made Temari angry with him, and he knew it had because he knew his wife, he had successfully avoided a catfight between the two most troublesome blondes in his life. Second most troublesome. Naruto was definitely the first. Team Kakashi, please come back down. Naruto slapped the Nara upside the head for not fighting before vaulting over the railing. They hadn't said he couldn't fight, just that he couldn't win. Sakura and Sasuke landed seconds after him without an audible thud. He extended his hand to Gaara. May the best team win. He grinned brightly. The redhead returned both. Their match was interrupted before it even began. A man in a black cloak with red patterned clouds stood in the center of the arena. Well, isn't that thoughtful, yeah? Konoha has put both Jinchuriki in the same place. This won't take long at all. Dana will be happy, yeah. What the hell were Akatsuki doing there? Naruto snapped his head sideways to look at Gaara, who looked as lost as he felt. Why was the Akatsuki already moving against the Jinchuriki? They weren't supposed to start that for another 3 years. Did killing Orochimaru early warrant such a drastic change to their timescale? He also didn't miss the concerned look Sasuke shot him. Let in on the orange-loving blonde secret a couple years early, Sasuke was now aware of the danger this criminal organization posed to his teammate. But, despite Deidara's unexpected crashing of their exams, Naruto thought they could handle it, even as the sleeping agents in the crowd put everyone in the arena to sleep and the invasion began. They had beaten the Akatsuki once, and the invasion would fail with Gaara on the Lee's side. And then it all went to hell when Itachi Uchiha appeared. You. Sasuke snarled. The seal on his neck flared red. What are you doing here? I'm going to kill you. It has been a few years, foolish little brother. You do not have enough hate to kill me. You are not worth killing yet. Naruto put a hand on Sasuke's shoulders as the boy tensed, Sharingan flaring. Ignore him, Sasuke. He's baiting you. You know you're not ready to kill him. Not that he would let Sasuke kill his brother. Itachi was a hero, and Naruto hoped to welcome him back to the village once everything was over and done with and they saved the world. Naruto-kun, we would like you to come with us. Like hell I'd do that, believe it. Naruto won't be going anywhere with the likes of you, Itachi Uchiha. Kakashi and Guy joined them, stepping directly in front of the genin. Go, help the civilians. Anyone not wearing a Konoha hit I-8 is an enemy. Did you three know about this invasion? The second question was directed at the Sand siblings, still standing silently behind Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke. Kankuro was perspiring lightly, while his two siblings looked as cool as cucumbers. Yes. Gaara said bluntly. Kankuro gaped at him. Why would he admit that to Sharingan no Kakashi? The Jounin would murder them. And do you plan to aid your troops? No, came Gaara's quick answer. I do not agree with or condone Suna's attack. I understand if you do not trust us, but my siblings and I fully intend to fight for Konoha. Kuro tried and failed to look like his betrayal wasn't news to him. Kakashi noticed but chose not to comment. "Very well. Stick with my students. And no heroics from any of you," he said sharply. "Defend the villagers and evacuate them to the shelters." There was a quick moment when 4 of the genin looked at Naruto to answer for them, and with his nod of approval, the 2 teams scaled the concrete walls to protect the people who had come to see the genins fight. They would certainly get their money's worth. Naruto's clones were a lifesaver. The blonde multiplied, 2 clones for every unknown chakra signature he detected, and sent his duplicates out with the order to eliminate. Shikamaru and his team raced over. "Ino, how good are you at your mind transfer jutsu?" The blonde-haired girl drew up affronted. What did the class clown know about clan jutsus? Of course she was more than adept at possessing other shinobi subtly, and she did so to get the answers during the first exam, when Naruto continued. "Can you use it on the Kazuki-age?" "The Kazuki-age?" she shrieked. "I can't possess the Kazuki-age. That would be asking for a war between the Yamanaka clan and Suna, you idiot. That's not the Kazuki-age. I need to know his real identity." Ino chewed her bottom lip as Naruto's serious eyes focused on her. How did he know that? Could she risk an international incident if he was wrong? "Ino," Shikamaru said softly. "Fine," she snapped. "But when Suna demands my head on a silver platter, I'm sending yours in my place." "They won't." Naruto smiled knowingly. Ino's body had barely slumped, Shikamaru's arms were outstretched to catch her unconscious body, and her eyes snapped open. "There's nobody there." "Did it not work? Do you need to be closer?" "It worked perfectly. There's no mind at all." Sakura's green eyes darted around the stadium, scanning for Sasori, who would most likely be hiding in his Haruko puppet. If the distinctive red and black cloak wasn't easy enough to pick out, Sasori's shorter height from the hunched-over puppet would definitely be noticeable. And even then, there was no way Sakura would ever forget the first man she had a hand in killing. "Sakura." The pin cat turned her attention to the future Rakudame Hokage. "You're the only one of us to have fought puppets. Take Kankuro and go help the 3rd Hokage. You're the only one that will be able to beat Sasori." "Lord Kazuki-age. What is the meaning of this?" Sarutobi demanded. The Hokage's Anbu guard took positions around him. "Hokage-sama. You must flee. Escape now." The Kazuki-age's arms came up. 2 small holes were visible on the palms of his hands. From them dozens of senbon were launched at a rapid speed. The Anbu squad protecting the Sandaime was killed with precise hits to vital areas. Sarutobi could not believe what he was seeing. The Yondaime Kazuki-age was a sand manipulator, much like his youngest son, and possessed a Kekkei Genkai called Magnet Release, which allowed him to manipulate particles of gold dust. "By the fires, you're a puppet, Lord Hokage," Sakura said succinctly, smoothly rising from her crouched landing. She was positive that what she was about to do was not what Naruto wanted when he mandated that they go all out. In fact, as the case may be, went against every order that they not reveal themselves to be from the future. "Uruno-san, Kankuro-san. What are you doing? This is not a fight for genin. Go, now." The old man gestured with his arm for the 2 of them to run. Kankuro, who was hovering off to the side not really knowing why he listened to the blonde-haired brat and followed the pink-haired one, probably because Gaara glared at him, muttered something under his breath about how true that was. "I'm sorry, Hokage-sama," she apologized, "but I cannot let you fight him." "Cannot?" he blustered. "Child, who do you think you are? You are a mere genin. I am your Hokage. If you do not leave now, I will have you stripped of your hit I ate and tried for treason." Sakura's lips curled upwards. "You may be Hokage, sir, but you are not my Hokage." Sarutobi was stunned by her answer. That didn't make any sense. He was so stunned he could not act to prevent her from activating a sealing barrier around her and the puppet of the Kazuki-age. There was no way her abnormally advanced abilities would go unnoticed after that. "Kankuro, please take Hokage-sama to safety." The makeup-wearing shinobi raised his eyes to the heavens, complaining about the insanity that all Leaf shinobi shared. Praying that the Hokage would not react quickly enough, Kankuro trapped him inside Black Ant. He left the crazy pink-haired girl with a parting, "My old man uses magnet release," and hurried to dump his prisoner somewhere out of the way before he lived up to his nickname God of Shinobi and kicked his ass. "I hate to be kept waiting." Sakura did not move as Sasori, hidden within Haruko. The criminal was never far away from his puppets. No puppet master could be, not even one of his skill level. "You cannot hope to beat me by yourself, little girl," the gruff tone of his puppet said. She smirked. "I think you'll find I can." She surged forward, meeting the 4th Kazuki-age as the puppet was directed forward and shattered his face. Sakura then used the still-moving wooden body as a springboard to launch herself onto an unsuspecting Sasori's back and cracked open the face-shaped shell that hid the true Sasori. The black blur shot out of the destroyed puppet, retreating to the far side of the barrier. Sakura had intentionally made the barrier small so that he would not be able to use his performance of 100 puppets that once brought down the land of this. Admittedly, Sakura was not as impressed with the technique once she researched the country, which was a small country bordering the land of fire and the land of rivers, famous for its food contests. All joking matters aside, Sakura did not feel suicidal and felt no need to fight 1 versus 100. In hindsight, she should have shattered more than just the 4th Kazukiyage's head. Gold sand exploded from underneath, slamming her against the wall of her barrier. She heard at least 2 bones snap. Sakura doused it with water, weighing it down enough that she could slip out and attack the puppet, and due to its greater density, it was too slow to stop her from reaching the headless puppet. This time she annihilated the human puppet. "Impressive," Sasori called softly. "Have you fought puppet masters previously?" "Yes. I see. It's been a long time since I was forced to use myself, but I cannot keep the others waiting." Sasori pulled the cloak from himself, revealing that he had turned his entire body, except for his living core that had scorpion written on it. Sakura pulled on her signature black fingerless gloves and cracked her knuckles. She may know Akasuna know Sasori's abilities, but she would be fighting he alone this time. Across from her, Sasori opened the compartment on his abdomen and balanced on the thick black wire that shot out of it. "Please do not interfere with my affairs. You will only get killed." Kakashi studied the 2S class shinobi in front of him. Itachi Uchiha, who had just spoken, was easily recognizable and his history was well known. The murderer of his entire clan. He had a meteoric rise through the ranks, claiming the title of Anbu captain as a boy of 13, thanks to his proficiency with his Sharingan. Kakashi knew his skill with the Uchiha's Kekkei Genkai would never compare to one born with it. And Itachi's Sharingan was on a whole other level. The copy nin would never have the mastery over the Uchiha's Dijutsu that Itachi had or Sasuke would come to have. The second shinobi was unknown to him. Long blonde hair which he wore drawn into a half ponytail with the rest hanging down freely. Bangs covered his left eye and he wore a slashed eye with forehead protector. "I'm going to prove to Sasori Dana that art is fleeting." The blonde reached into a large pouch on his left leg that held his clay. "Gaara, we do not have time to engage in frivolous battles. Our mission is to retrieve the Jinchuricus of the One Tail and 9 Tails." Kakashi's normal eye widened in alarm. He would not let them have Naruto. His hands blurred through a stream of hand seals. Chakra condensed in his hand, taking the form of a ball of blue lightning and chirping. He raised a headband concealing his Sharingan. "You take Gaara," he said to Guy. "I've got the Uchiha. Yosh. Let us defeat these guys quickly and aid Lord Hokage. This is my next challenge, my eternal rival, with which I will tie up the score. If I do not beat my opponent before you, Kakashi, I will be the bait for your Ninhound's next tracking simulation." Chidori. Kakashi streaked towards Itachi. The Uchiha dodged right into a kick from a clone. Itachi disappeared from sight and Kakashi felt a kunai prod the back of his flak jacket. Itachi thrust the kunai into the copy nin's back and he poofed out of existence. He quickly jumped when the Jounin tried to pull him underground by means of his headhunter jutsu. For the longest minutes of his life, Kakashi stood toe-to-toe with the infamous Itachi Uchiha. He may not have Uchiha blood running through his veins, but he could wield the Sharingan just as well. The battle was fast-paced, who held the upper hand was always switching. Itachi would use the Grand Fireball Jutsu every Uchiha mastered as a child, and Kakashi would counter with a vortex of water. Kakashi would summon another Chidori, and Itachi wouldn't be in the place he was aiming for. Ultimately, they were evenly matched. Until he closed his eyes. "Do you know why the Uchiha clan is the most powerful and feared clan of all? I will show you the true powers of the bloodline of Sharingan masters." Tsukiyomi. Kakashi was too slow to close his eyes. His world turned black. While Sakura handled Sasori and his second Kazekage puppet, Naruto directed Ino and Choji to helping some of his clones get civilians to safety. Ino had tried to protest, saying she could fight, but he told her straight away she was a liability due to her clan's jutsu and that he could not afford to waste someone on watching over her mindless body. He and the others separated to quickly deal with a large number of Sound and Suna invaders. His plan had been progressing smoothly. Naruto mostly employed the use of various battle seals he had designed himself. Seals were a brilliant shinobi invention. Ingenious, really. Most thought nothing of them. They allowed for simple things like easy and more storage, paper bombs, starting campfires, and summoning, to complex things like sealing tailed beasts, manipulating time and space, sustaining life, and barriers. Unfortunately, they also allowed for monstrosities like Orochimaru's cursed seals. Which, on their own, were an amazing mix of Fuinjutsu and Senjutsu and a commendable feat, but in the hands of someone as twisted as the Snake Sannin were a menace. Or the twice-damned Ito Tensei. Most shinobi didn't use seals beyond storage, pre-made explosive tags, and the occasionally summoning jutsu. But Naruto could fight with them exclusively if he wished to. Fuinjutsu was impossible to defend against and was the most unappreciated and unused weapon of the shinobi world. Not even his father fought with seals. Minato used them in battle. Seals were the foundation of his Flying Thunder God technique, the pinnacle of Fuinjutsu 12 years ago, that had earned him the name of Konoha's Yellow Flash. But Minato only used seals to travel at the speed of light. Naruto could use them to incapacitate an enemy 216 different ways and kill them another 32 ways. Certainly they could be dangerous to work with if you didn't know what you were doing. Fuinjutsu was not for the faint-hearted. The theory of Fuinjutsu was abstract, complex, and difficult to fully comprehend. The smallest mistake in riding a seal could have severe consequences. That was why it was important to write with a steady hand, carefully balancing lines, numbers, and symbols to create a functional seal. The Fuinjutsu master understood the limitless possibilities and miracles that seals were capable of performing and could do anything their imagination could dream up. Any seal that was written correctly would activate without fail when chakra was added. Naruto was a Fuinjutsu master. One the likes that the world had never seen. That's how he knew some second-rate idiot had written the seal overlaying Orochimaru's cursed seal. Naruto cursed viciously, dropping to his knees at his teammate's side, utterly helpless when the containment seal broke and Sasuke automatically entered the first level. The seal absorbed all his own chakra, replacing it with Orochimaru's Injutsu chakra. The black flame-like markings spread from his neck and he cried out as pain and absolute power consumed him. Malicious purple chakra surrounded Sasuke, spiraling around the boy in a manner much like the orange cloak of the Kyuubi's chakra when Naruto was first learning to use it. No distinct shape, just pure chakra twisting and churning. The blonde glared at the black flame-like markings that crawled under Sasuke's shirt. How he wished he could remove the cursed seal altogether. But Fuinjutsu wasn't that advanced yet, or at least Konoha's knowledge of it wasn't. Not to mention that the cursed seal couldn't just be removed without explanation. There would be a dozen people, the third Hokage, Kakashi, Anko, Ibiki, the current experts of Fuinjutsu, most prominent, that wouldn't let Naruto get away with saying he didn't know what happened. If he couldn't provide a reasonable excuse, Sasuke might be dragged off for testing if they believed his body could fight off seals or something ridiculous like that. "Come on, Sasuke," he muttered as the seal showed no sign of receding. "Fight it off. You don't need that power. You don't want to use someone else's power to kill your brother. If you rely on the seal it will become a crutch and then you'll never be strong enough." And that was the crux of the matter. Even if Naruto could spin a believable tale, he couldn't take the choice away from Sasuke. It needed to be his choice to accept or deny the power he had been given. If he still wanted to use it and Naruto took it away, Sasuke would hate him. It would be the beginning of another cycle of hatred that Naruto had sworn to end. And when Sasuke hated something, he hated it with his whole being. Like Itachi, Sasuke would not rest until he was dead. And he wouldn't let Sasuke go gallivanting off after Kabuto for power, like a duckling following its mother. He was supposed to prevent him from leaving the village, and Naruto couldn't do that if Sasuke wanted to kill him. The Sandaime had been shocked to his core. His village was being invaded. A war could be looming on the horizon. He had been about to remove the official full-length kimono in Konoha's red, the white haori, and the pointed hat when Kakashi's female student had jumped in front of him and bold as brass ordered the Kazukiyage's oldest son to take him away. Sarutobi had never heard of such insubordination, not even from Kakashi who regarded teammates above all else. Never would the silver-haired man have defied his Hokage. Before he could order the girl, Sakura he thought her name was, to stand down, he was scooped up and wooden slat slid into place with a thunk in front of him. The inside of the puppet was bare and dark and all Sarutobi could do was stare at the grooves. He had been caught off guard by a pair of genin. Unbelievably, it had taken him a couple minutes to remember that he was the Hokage of the Leaf Village and that a puppet wielded by genin could not hold him. Hiruzen exhaled a stream of fire, reducing his wooden prison to ashes, and leapt nimbly from its smoldering confines. Ankuro fell to his knees, brushing all the ashes into a pile. "Black Ant," he cried. "What in Hashirama's name is going on here?" the third Hokage demanded. "Whose name, sir?" The brunette was still frantically sweeping up the ashes like his puppet would magically rebuild itself if he could keep it together. The Hokage stared at him dumbfounded. He could not believe that the boy did not recognize the name Hashirama. "Never mind. What the blazes do you think you're doing?" Ankuro's terrified eyes finally met the Hokage's harsh ones. "I'm trying to stay alive. Gaara would have killed me if I hadn't done what the pink-haired brat wanted." Sarutobi kneaded his temple. Clearly he wasn't going to get any answers from Kankuro. The boy had no more clue than he did about why his genin was ordering him about. He left the boy to mourn over his incinerated puppet. He was the Hokage. He had a village to defend. The will of fire would not be extinguished so easily. Sakura had been in battles before. She had lived through this invasion once, going up against a murderous unhinged Jinchuriki. Along with Chiyo she had once taken down the very man that stood before her. But she had never participated in such a confusing fight. Sasori perched on his black coil, the spinning blades that gave him flight whirring, and she knew he was going to come at her with a katana as he would have in the future. And then he disappeared. She could still hear the sounds of battle around her, but Sasori was gone. Escaped from her barrier. Sakura couldn't recount what happened after that. The others had taken care of the enemy shinobi in the stands. Naruto was cradling Sasuke, and for a second she had a horrible flashback to the day they used the 5-element seal, when all hope was gone and the future never looked bleaker and the last of her team was dying and she could do nothing about it. The rest of the Akatsuki had vanished as well, leaving Guy to frantically race her Komoto-sensei to the hospital. She and Naruto had followed, carrying their dark-haired teammate between them. Unfortunately, none of the medics on staff at the hospital could do anything about Sasuke's broken containment seal. So the two members of Team 7 were forced to watch as the last one waged an internal war. Then a team of Anbu came and took Sakura away. Naruto protested, loudly and fervently, and was soundly ignored by masked shinobi. Sakura let herself be led from the room, telling Naruto that he couldn't leave Sasuke alone. The blonde sat hunched over in the chair at Sasuke's bedside, anxious. How had it come to this? The Hokage was saved. Akatsuki attacked early. Two of his teammates were in the hospital, both unlikely to wake for a few days. And Sakura was arrested. Team 7 was falling apart in front of him. I don't want this power. Naruto's head shot up at Sasuke's rasp, so fast that it cracked. I will kill that man on my own. Naruto grabbed Sasuke's wrist. The dark-haired boy did not pull away. Together. He promised. We'll help you. You don't have to do it alone. Sasuke studied him intensively, searching Naruto's cerulean eyes, seeing nothing but determination, strength, and support. He nodded. Naruto and Sakura could help him achieve his revenge. Speaking of his other teammate, Sasuke's onyx orb scanned his two-white hospital room. Dope, where is Sakura? Naruto's hand on his arm tensed. The feeling Sasuke couldn't describe welled up inside him. Panic. Concern. Worry. Disbelief. Had she been injured? Or killed? His heart twanged, uncomfortable with the idea that Sakura could be dead. He had seen her strength. It just wasn't possible that she could be dead. The blonde's tongue ran across his lips. She'll be okay. Sasuke had been about to demand more. He needed to know exactly what happened to his teammate. I'll make sure of it. We will. Team 7 will never abandon a comrade. And strangely enough, he believed Naruto. The fierceness which he said it with made Sasuke believe they could do anything. Team 7 would be unstoppable. Team 7 stood in the Hokage's office, each member still a little twitchy and more than a little nervous. Sasuke looked like he still belonged in the hospital. His skin was as pale as eyes, and occasionally his hand jumped to the mark on his neck. Naruto had thrown himself at her the instant she was escorted across the threshold, firing off rapid questions of where she had been and if she was okay. Sakura had been fine. There had been no torture like she was expecting. The Anbu locked her in a dark room underground and guarded her around the clock. Kakashi was still recovering from Itachi's Tsukiyomi, but was standing behind them supporting himself with a wooden crutch. Their sensei had thrown Naruto a questioning look as he worried over his pink-haired teammate, wondering what he had missed while trapped in the illusionary realm. The Hokage was leveling them with a piercing stare. Exhaustion lined his face. The old man looked like he hadn't slept a wink in the 3 days since the invasion. She was almost positive that there was a slight bald patch above his right ear. But Sakura was petrified. The last time she had been before the Sandaime she had ordered Kankuro to stuff him into one of his puppets. She had told him to his face that she followed someone else's Hokage. Her hands clenched so tightly that her fingernails were digging white half-circles into her palms. She didn't regret saving the old man's life. Sakura would never regret saving a life. She was a healer. She was supposed to keep people alive. But the Rosette was absolutely terrified that the third Hokage would follow through with his threat to revoke her ninja license and order her to be executed or demand she leave the village and never return. Sakura would actually prefer death over the other two options. She could not save the world by baking bread. And to have gotten Konoha back only to be forbidden to ever step foot inside its gates again, it would crush Sakura. Uruno Sakura, the third Hokage began. You have gone against the Hokage's direct orders, consorted with a Chunin in kidnapping the Hokage. Here Kakashi turned a startled eye on her, endangered yourself and anyone who happened to be nearby. You had cut off people of higher rank than you, and if it had gone another way you would have killed many civilians. The Hokage's words felt like many stabs through the heart to Sakura. She gulped, knowing that her fate was coming next and that she had to accept it with dignity. The law is clear in these matters. Your crimes warrant an immediate removal from the rosters. You will never be a Konoha shinobi. Sakura couldn't stop one tear from leaking from the corner of her eye. What? You can't be serious, Gigi. Naruto. The blonde bit back the next words he had been going to say, not because the Hokage was reprimanding him and telling him to be silent, but because Sakura had called his name softly. Sakura-chan. Naruto's mouth opened and closed a few times, trying to find the words to say. The Pincat threw her arms around him. It's okay, Naruto. No, it's not. Sasuke stepped up next to them. Sakura's eyes softened as she glanced at her once crush. Sasuke. It's not alright. He repeated angrily. You're a part of Team 7. It won't be the same without you. He couldn't lose them now. Sakura couldn't be taken away from them. His team filled a dark void in his heart. Naruto, Sakura, and even Kakashi to an extent were more than just people he had to put up with every day on his quest to grow stronger. Sasuke couldn't lose one of them before he had a chance to connect and develop bonds and grow stronger with them. Sakura let her tears flow freely. She was seeing it firsthand and she was having trouble accepting the changes in Sasuke. It was almost unbelievable that she and Naruto had managed to change his one-track mind in the little time they had been back in the past. People who break the rules are trash, but people who leave a comrade behind are worse than trash. If you can't be a ninja, then you can be a civilian. And we'll resign too, Naruto said fiercely. Right, Sasuke. Said boy was already nodding in agreement. You're our teammate. You jump, we jump. We're not leaving you behind. Sakura sobbed, pulling Sasuke into a three-way hug. If they looked behind them, they would have seen Team 7 Sensei tearing up. Despite the crushing failure he was facing for not being able to keep his team together, Kakashi couldn't be prouder of his students. Both were willing to sacrifice their dreams to keep Sakura with them. She brushed away her tears. I can't let you do that. You're going to be Hokage, Naruto. And Sasuke has to get his revenge. So don't worry about me, okay? I'll be fine. Grow stronger. Don't lose sight of your dreams. And keep Sasuke out of trouble. Sasuke scoffed lightly. It was more like he would need to keep the dope in line. Sakura's green eyes locked onto Naruto. He knew that she meant for him to continue with the plan and prevent Sasuke from going rogue. The third Hokage coughed, ruining Team 7's sentimental goodbye and earning the glares of its two male members. I wasn't finished. Sakura closed her eyes. She wasn't just be stripped of her hit I-8. Banishment. Execution. She crushed Naruto's and Sasuke's hands. Neither boy complained even though Sakura was certain she had broken a few bones. Naruto was racked with guilt. He felt a broken hand was the least he deserved. This was all his fault. He was the one that ordered Sakura to fight Sasori. He had forbidden them from holding back. Sakura's death was going to be on his hands. He briefly wondered if Shikamaru would feel as guilty for his part since he was the one to suggest they do everything over. He would never be able to wash the blood away. But you have protected our village and its people. You protected the Hokage from an S-class missing nin and made sure he was out of harm's way. You have fought with a bravery and determination, showing that you were willing to die for your village. The will of fire burns brightly in you. Naruto blinked twice. Did he really hear what he thought? Praise for Sakura's actions and not condemnation. There was a smile on the Sandame's face. Sakura sagged between them, only her grip on his and Sasuke's hands was keeping her upright. Sarutobi still wasn't done. And that is why I am making you a Chunin. You as well, Sasuke and Naruto. Your actions during the invasion have displayed the maturity, skills, and behavior I expect from a Chunin. Now all of Team 7 was smiling and laughing, albeit with a touch of hysteria. Uncharacteristically, Sasuke initiated a group hug. The smile on his face looked out of place and normal at the same time. Congratulations, new Chunin. I trust there will not be another incident like this one. His heavy gaze fell upon Sakura. I won't disobey you again, Hokage-sama. She promised. And she wasn't lying. Sarutobi wouldn't be the Hokage much longer. And Tsunade was a different matter entirely. Team 7 left the Hokage's office much happier than they entered it. With one look Naruto and Sakura agreed not to disclose the day's events with the other time travelers. It was a personal matter for Team 7. Sakura-chan, Naruto asked as the three wandered aimlessly away from the tower. What would you have done if the old man really took your forehead protector? Sasuke turned towards her slightly as she was walking in the middle. An answer, she grinned brightly. I would have gone to Suna. He never said I couldn't join another village. Gaara would have taken me in. The third Hokage watched the three from his window overlooking the village. Team 7 continued to surprise him. The three newly made Chunin could not be more different. Naruto was bright, loud, and reckless. Sasuke was a black spot, a dark pit with a dark past. Sakura was cheery, naive, from a civilian family. But they went together like green on leaves. He had not expected such strong reactions to his display. Off the top of his head, he could only name one other shinobi that would have dropped his career like it was a burning coal, and that was Kakashi Haddock. Sarutobi's eyes followed the girl's pink hair, bookended by the Uchiha's black and Naruto's blonde. He had not forgotten her words in the cage's box. The meteoric rise in abilities of both her and Naruto did not escape his really was getting much too old for this job. All the political jockeying and secret conspiracies. Now he was at the point of suspecting Genin of treason and dabbling with forbidden jutsus. He would have to keep a close eye on them. Tenzu. The cat Anbu with green and red markings promptly knelt before him. I need you to monitor Team Kakashi. Particularly Sakura Haruno and Naruto Uzumaki. Hi, Hokage-sama. The Anbu intoned. What if Naruto refuses to save Sasuke? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.